Just realised my mic wasn't working. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. I am, of course, your host, Mr. Jeffercakes, and you're here for the very first Talk Taku, our podcast about otaku and Japanese-related content. Now, we have some guests with us this evening. We have both Dread Red Queen and Eva Fan. So, how are you this evening?
Who are you asking?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm asking you two.
Okay, it's too hot.
It is far too hot. Luckily, what we tweaked about 10 seconds ago has completely cleared up your video, so you're no longer kind of pixelated and disappearing.
Mobile, it's not working. I get no signal half the time, so I can't even.
Oh, that's a
do
shame.
the thing.
So yeah, it's our first Talk Taku.
No pressure.
Well, I mean,
Nope.
I've still got the chat, so that's something at least.
Yeah, no pressure at all. So, for those who weren't aware, we did like an unofficial convention bar about, 3-4 weeks ago, I think it was?
Near enough. Yeah, about 4 weeks or so ago.
Yeah. And that was for...
End of May.
And that was for an online convention called Cloud Matsuri, and we sat round and we basically did what we're doing now, and we went, you know what, this would make a great podcast, just sitting round and having a chat and kind of just talking about everything that we're passionate about, and that's what spawned Talk Taku. That's where we're at, really. So, yeah, what have you been watching at the moment, Chris?
We're going to jump straight into it.
We may as well jump straight into the topic. We do have Mark joining us later, I should mention.
Well, we've got to do something
Ellen.
fast time until Mark gets here, so.
Yes. So yeah, Elim is joining us later. He's currently what time is it? So he will have sat and watched Power Rangers. He would have already filmed his episode, and he's probably in the process of uploading it right now. So we can talk absolute.
He's going to flog the hell out of his bandwidth when he tries to turn his camera on.
Yeah, pretty much. So we can talk crap about him for the next half hour or so until he joins us.
We're not that mean. Well, maybe we are.
Yeah, we are.
So
I'd say we'll wait for the chat to prompt us, but you know, people are just filtering in.
yeah, we've got 3 viewers so far, so that's better than I standardly get on my streams. So, you know, hey, that's a good.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about all things anime. So, yeah, in terms of what I've been watching lately, I finished watching Ergo Proxy.
You actually finished it then?
You actually finished.
Yes.
We haven't finished it. I
finished
got
it.
to the quiz show thing.
Oh,
episode?
yeah, no, that episode is trippy as hell.
I got to that
and
episode and I was just like, this is too weird for me. I just didn't finish
Is that before or after the episode where there's, like, the doppelgangers?
I can't remember. I mean, it was before I even met Ben.
Things get
So
weird.
at least like maybe
Things
6 or
get
7.
very, very weird, and at times, I wouldn't say fourth wall breaking, but they start to kind of have things inside of things inside of things, and you're like, what's going on?
So
I enjoyed it. You know, it was like it's a cyberpunk type story. The protagonist is really goth looking, and the theme and the closing. Well, I say theme tune. It's the end credits. Is Paranoid Android by Radiohead. So
Yeah.
that's yes.
Brilliant. The intro is pretty good as well.
Yeah.
So I watched a bit of Ergo Proxy. I got to the point where she had to jump out of this kind of almost like air capsule thing, and then ended up in this crap area down on the actual Earth, not the floating city that they were in.
Yeah.
And I think I
Literally
watched.
the first couple of episodes then.
Yeah, I think that's
just after
within
Iggy went nuts.
I
And then
think
she ran
that's
away.
about 3 episodes in, maybe.
I swear that was further in. I thought that was episode like 7 or something.
Most of the series is outside of the city. Like the inside of the city is just a little bit, and then Iggy goes nuts, gets the whatever virus it is, and then she.
And we see the later part of the story follows what's going on in the city while they've been away. So you see a lot of her former boss and the doctor and what's going on with them and her grandfather and all that sort of stuff. But I definitely feel like I'm going to have to watch that again because it was. I feel like maybe rather than like picking it, like watching it like one episode every couple of days in between various other things, I just need to sit and watch it in one continuous run and just see if that makes any more sense, because it was a bit surreal in times.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And the subtitles that kept coming up and giving you vast amounts of like philosophical text in certain scenes. In the version I watched, it had
that's nothing. You don't tend to see it as much with officially licensed subs, but certainly with fan subs, because a lot of fan subbers are like really enthusiastic about the culture. You often get like annotations to explain like historical relevance, or to explain the puns in the Japanese grammar, whereas the subtitles, or sometimes as people jokingly call them dub titles, they often forego some of those jokes and they'll replace them with more straightforward westernized jokes. And so
which I think is sad, because I think that kind of ruins the nuance sometimes.
Yeah, you lose an element of the humor. And especially if you've studied any Japanese, sometimes you're watching something and you just think, but that's
not what they say. That's not what they said. Yeah, I've had that a few times. Only on like basic phrases, but
yeah, Ergo Proxy, I enjoyed it, but it's a hard one to explain what was going on. And it's one of those shows that definitely feels like it had a lot of loose ends. To be fair, I don't like the other end of it where shows feel the need to tie up all the loose ends, because sometimes that just becomes a bit cliched, but there was enough loose ends to make me go like, that wasn't explained.
Yeah.
I don't like them leaving so many loose ends that you need a sequel for closure, and then they never do the sequel. Or like where they don't close a loose end and they edit it in such a way that it implies there will be a sequel. But I mean, Hollywood does that with movies and stuff as well. It irritates me in movies as well. It's not just anime that irritates me.
Hey, Handan.
Hey, Hannah.
Good evening.
So yeah, is Ergo Proxy the only thing you've watched recently, or?
So I was going to go through three things. I also watched, which I hadn't seen in a long time, Raw Space Force Wings of Honey Nisei. Which is an animated film by Studio Gainax.
Didn't you speak about that in your Ava panel as like you referenced it or something, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it was the very first project that Gainax formally made after they officially became a film studio.
Yeah.
And they spent, because they actually founded in 1984, but the film didn't come out until 87, so they spent 3 years working on this, and it shows. It is one of the most beautifully crafted anime movies I've ever seen, or animated movies. In fact, I think that it outshines a lot of what Disney have done. Certainly, I think there's a lot of people who look at the Disney being a lot like comic books. You have your sort of your golden age and your silver age, and then you've got kind of the animated movies that Disney have churned out in the last few years, which have been.
You mean they're CG rehashes of every film under the sun?
I'm not even talking about.
Or when they do full CG and say this is live action, I'm like, no, it's not. It's CG. It's not live action.
Yeah, Honey Nisei is it's got an attention to detail and a sense of world building and kind of realism within that world that some things don't flesh out.
Yeah.
A lot of people compare it to Studio Ghibli, and in fact, the director for this film, I've totally forgotten his name off the top of my head, but it's one of the founders of Studio Gainax, was saying that they wanted to make something very much like the sort of things that Ghibli were making, that sense of world building and storytelling, and it really shows. In fact, I filmed a video for my YouTube channel, kind of covering the Blu-ray and all the sort of bits and pieces. With
shameless plug.
Would I do that? Yeah, no, I have.
You just have.
And here we're going to move straight on to our sponsor spot.
Studio Gainax, no.
Oh man, So those were two of the three things I watched, and I really enjoyed them. And the other thing was one of the various anime titles on Netflix. Netflix, I think Netflix is becoming better and better for anime just
There's
because
a lot more anime to watch on there. Or like,
yeah, I think that's partly because they've lost all of the Disney and the Marvel stuff and Star Wars and all of that sort of stuff. So because of that, they started looking at putting more effort into it.
It's been great, like going on there and be like, oh, they've got this series, I haven't seen that in ages, and then just blitz it.
Yeah, I know they've got amongst their current roster, they've got things like they've just got Food Wars has literally just come on in the last week or so.
I spotted that.
They've got Black Lagoons on there at the moment.
Yeah, I've been.
Black Lagoon's been on there for a little while, to be fair.
Yeah. There's various bits and pieces, but there was a period where some of the stuff on there was there was less quality. I think there's a better quality of stuff on there at the moment. One of the things I did watch on there though was a series called Sword Guy. It's advertised as being 2 seasons, except it's the standard Netflix thing of slicing a 26 episode series down the middle. But it just the concept is interesting. The idea that swords, especially really ancient swords, over their lifetime have had so much blood spilled them. The swords develop a soul of their own.
Okay.
And these swords are actually able to possess people.
That's interesting.
To become the living embodiment of that weapon. And the main protagonist of it loses his he's a blacksmith's apprentice who loses his arm to one of these cursed swords, this katana, and his master decides to melt the katana down and make it into a prosthetic arm for him, and that goes well. It goes rather well.
So then he's got a hand that talks to him.
Yeah.
Nice.
But my problem with this show was the concepts and stuff were great, but it suffers from a plot that never feels like it's properly resolved. And also, they spend so many episodes introducing so many side characters. Like, I appreciate that they want to have an excuse to show a new weapon and whatever. But there's a whole part during the first arc where they avoid like the primary 3 characters for like about 2 or 3 episodes and just introduce a bunch of side characters, and you're like, what is this? Where are you going with this?
Is it one of those animes that feel like it's almost trying to accompany like a gacha game, where they're going to introduce so many kind of cards and characters and stuff that you kind of actually replicate that into a game?
I don't know. I do understand that Sword Guy is a manga, and it probably suffers from the classic problem of what happens when you condense X number of volumes of manga down into a series. So those characters might have been better fleshed out in the manga because they'd had more time to have their individual storylines. But the ultimate plot is that this particular cursed katana that a guy has put in his mechanical arm is one of a pair that, for reasons that are mentioned only once in the series, was forged by a half dragon.
Because why not?
Yeah. And these 2 swords, one is the test piece and one was the finished work. And the idea being that when the blacksmith finished them, he would appraise both swords and discard the lesser of the 2. And so it ends up being that somebody else ends up in possession of the other sword, and they're kind of predestined to fight one another. And
I wonder if, possibly considering it as swords, that whether it's a play on the Mezumiune Mirisama swordsmiths, where they had a competition to who would have the better sword and stuff. That's a legendary, like.
Yeah, I know. I don't. It didn't sort of seem to reference that, but the references could have been very subtle to that. What's weird about it is that the core premise is that because these people get chosen by these weapons, and they can lose themselves to the weapons, the weapon takes full control of that person's body. They become these sort of avatars of the weapon, what they're called Busoma, I think they're called.
Okay.
And so that they cease being humans, and there's like a Grim Reaper type dude called Grim who's trying to manipulate people to become the Busoma to then resurrect the king of the ultimate king of living weapons or whatever. Some convoluted plot that.
Yeah, it seems a bit much.
And then on top of all, and so the best way to fight the possessed weapons is with somebody else who has a possessed weapon who hasn't become possessed yet.
Okay.
And so they're kind of partially possessed, and they're referred to as chrysalis. And this kind of agency kind of recruits these people and then puts them into cold sleep, and then occasionally wakes them and goes, "Yeah, we need you to go and fight this guy."
Weird.
And then on top of that, just to make things even more convoluted, at least one or two of the swords in this series are defined as being, oh no, it's not that the sword has a soul, it's that a demon is bound into the sword. You're like, what? You're just throwing
trope after trope after trope, just like.
It's they just sat there in the writer's room like, oh, wouldn't this be cool? Add this quick.
Yeah, it's the idea of, here's the blunderbuss full of ideas. We'll shoot and hopefully some of this will stick.
We'll just throw it at the wall and see what's
But the problem is that right when they get to this pivotal thing, and it's like, yes, well, if you kill me, then you'll have proved yourself to be the superior katana, and then you will become this kind of overlord of all weapons. And he's like, kills the other guy and just goes, nah. And it just sort of ends, and I'm like, what? So you did the thing and managed to not have the consequence.
# spoilers.
What?
Well, no point watching that now.
I wouldn't recommend watching it anyway. Yeah, I mean,
we've been watching that.
It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good.
Doro thing that's on Netflix. Have you watched that, Chris?
I keep seeing the adverts for that. I've not seen that.
It's really weird. It's the sort of anime where it's current, but it feels like it's from the 80s. Like it gives you the feel that it's old. It's also really weird because one of the characters has got the voice of Naruto.
It's also like CG, but it's been cell shaded on top.
Yeah, it's a good blend. It's not bad CG. Like you can tell that there's CG in it, but it doesn't it doesn't take away from the artwork or drawing or anything.
I don't know if it's just the trailers or something, but it kind of, from what I've seen the trailers, it kind of reminds me a bit of Durarararara.
So the manga for Dorohedoro was actually an 80s manga, a late 80s manga.
That might be why it gives that feeling. So they've
probably kind of.
There, then.
No, that's worthwhile. And shall I bring up Plastic Memories?
It's too soon.
Wow, that sounds like there's some deep rooted trauma there.
Chris, have you seen Angel Beats?
Oh, is that's the one with the high school where, without spoiling it, it's...
Yeah, so the ending of Angel Beats that normally gets people, it's kind of on par with that in terms of Plastic Memories.
It's really, really wholesome.
Sorry to anybody who's not seen Angel Beats. Sorry,
it's really wholesome. It's really wholesome, and like it builds you up thinking that there's going to be a like heartwarming, happy ending, and it's so bittersweet. It's unreal. It's not. I'm like, why would you do that to me? How dare you?
I think for 2 days we were like traumatized by that anime.
I
was
depressed for like a day. I've never cried so much in an anime. Like I think at one point we just kind of looked at each other, and I just kind of looked at him, and I was just like, "But I don't want this to happen."
See this,
and it was just
it
was like ugly crying. It was that. Oh.
I like anime that kind of that introduces itself like Sex Bomb from Scott Pilgrim. You know, think about death and stuff.
Yeah. So this was I think we watched episode 1 and 2, and I went, if this goes down this route, it is gonna make both of us cry. And then we watched the last episodes and went, it went down that route. It made us cry. No.
I'm just like, I'm not crying. You're crying.
And we're...
No, actually, I was going to say I've never watched anything that bad anime-wise, but no, I've watched Grave for the Fireflies, and that is a gut punch and a half.
I haven't actually seen that. I want to watch
It's
it,
beautifully
but I think
animated.
I need to be in a good emotional place to watch it. I think.
What
So
you
I
need
can
is you
handle
need a nice hot cup of cocoa ready for you when you finish, and blankets. You need a pillow fort.
Yeah.
Not in this weather, we don't.
Possibly not in this weather.
No
yeah.
pillow forts.
So,
Maybe a pillow fort?
well...
What?
But yeah, aside from that, we've also been trying to finally finish Umineko no Nakakura. I've seen it like twice. I think we're up to like episode 19, so we've just got the final few episodes to finish on that.
Crazy Beatrice now, not the original one's not Beatrice anymore. It's the crazy split personality. It's weird.
Have you seen Umineko before?
I have not seen Umineko actually.
It's the opening has Italian words.
Is this the one that's
the one that says Spandau Ballet in the intro? Spandau Ballet.
I was gonna say this is the one that's not a direct follow-on from Higurashi, but it's kind of a companion piece too.
No, it's linked. It is very much linked.
Frederica is in it.
There's a character called.
The character that's in it. Unlike
as an adult though, not as a kid.
So Frederica Berncastle is the witch version of Rika when she gets fed up of her world in Higurashi, when she feels that she cannot compete with she can't break that spell of repeating over and over again. Yeah. So she apparently goes off.
It goes evil overlord.
Well, she goes off to try and find another fate that she could break, and that's kind of why she's in Umineko.
Interesting. Well, I'll have to look that up. I need to see the rest of Higurashi because I've only seen the first 2 series.
So
you have to deal with a lot of the annoying kind of laughs though, like.
And Marianne and I.
I've not seen enough anime like that sort of thing happen.
I just want to kill her. She's the most irritating child.
But no, so Higurashi season 3 makes direct reference to Umineko. And Umineko has a direct reference back to Higurashi, so that's the link there. And then you may as well not watch season 4 of Higurashi, because that is... They've changed the animation style, and the opening song is happy, happy, happy. Oh, yes.
What are you on about? That's the best intro to get someone to watch Higurashi, to lull them into a false sense of security that it's a sweet, innocent, happy show and not...
Look, the last time I trusted anime that lured me into a false sense of security was Madoka Magica.
Yeah, that's a good show.
I love Madoka Magica because I started it going, this is just a shitty magical girl series. I'm not going to enjoy this. This is stupid by the end of it. I was just like, that was amazing.
I'm also...
undercurrent of something being a little bit odd in those first 3 episodes, but the way that the 3rd episode ends is just like, okay, so that just happened.
Yeah, and it kind of spawned this whole dark magical girl genre that is very popular at the moment.
I'm all about dark magical girls.
I think there's always been an element of the dark kind of undertones. Maybe not so much in things like Cardcaptor, Sakura, but if you go and look at things like, I mean, admittedly, it's been heavily edited and changed, but you go and look at especially the original Japanese versions of Sailor Moon. There's not to the same level, but there's an inferred level of threat and a kind of a sense of foreboding in it that isn't translated as well.
I think to me, a magical girl series has to be dark as hell, or so ridiculous it's hilarious. Like, is it Camphor? It sounds German, but it's basically this guy who he gets this bracelet, and it randomly turns him into a magical girl every so often, and he ends up having to
I think that is Camphor.
That one, and was it Magical Girl Ore or whatever it was?
Yeah, that's where 2 of them turned into
massive muscular men with fucking girl outfits and stuff. It's so funny.
I mean, I love that. I love subverting a genre. like Maid Guy. If you've ever seen Maid Guy, it's like this kind of, imagine a WWF wrestler, big burly square jawed guy, but in a traditional Japanese kind of
what, like Ladybeard?
Yeah, big, think that
manly burly man in a cute outfit.
Yeah, you know, kind of cleans the house and then kicks the crap out of whoever's hassling the young master.
Yeah,
I need to watch this. This sounds amazing.
Because I mean, the problem is that that's only a slight subversion of the genre, because you get things like Maho Romantic, where she's a combat android who just happens to decide to like be a maid. So she still has the cutesy girl aesthetic, whereas this is just flat out, yeah, he is a guy, but is a maid. Nobody fucking questions it.
Yeah, why not?
So
you have to add that to the list.
Oh, the list, the never-ending list.
Yeah.
I love subversion. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but I watched a series on Crunchyroll a while back called Line Barrels of Iron, which is a mech show by Sunrise. It's one of the forgotten Sunrise shows, because people tend to forget that Sunrise make other things that are Gundam or...
We will never finish all of these, and you keep making me add more. Stop.
We're 2 seasons behind. We haven't added any of last season's anime to that list yet.
Right, see, there's your problem. You worry about what's in the current season.
Up until this very last... Up until this very last season, we have kept up for 3 years straight for every season of anime. We have watched... We started off with anywhere from 9 to 15 animes at the start.
We were really
the most
no nonsense about it. We would watch
3 episodes.
No, we would watch 1 episode.
Drop a load.
Are we willing?
You followed the gig.
Are we willing to watch another 2 episodes? Or this is okay, but it's still on the chopping block, and then we give it another 2 episodes, and then we're like, no, this is shit, and then drop it.
Talking about Giguk,
10, and then we'll cut it down to about 5 by the time.
Talking about Giguk, have you watched the life cycle of the anime fan? When you get to a point where you realise, actually, you're quite happy watching trash anime. This is why there's actually a separate list downstairs just with anime that Ben is going to watch. And one of those that I'm currently watching is the quintessential quintuplets.
You're only watching it because all the girls are redheads. Stop lying to yourself.
Says the guy wearing an otaku t-shirt, you know, when I have to call you out for being weak trash.
It's an okay show. So it's about a tutor that is very impoverished, a bit like the start of Hayato no Gotoku, Combat Butler. So he's...
Yes.
His dad then employs him to go and tutor this single person, or what he assumes is a single person. He had already pissed her off in school that day, and finds out that actually the reason why he's getting 5 times the going rate for his tutelage is there's not just one of them, there's 5 of them. However, later in the show, you realise that the reason... It is, but you realise that the reason why he refuses to date anybody and is so focused on school and completely changed his personality is because, 2 or 3 years prior, he had his heart broken by a redhead. Now, it turns out the redhead is one of these quintuplets, but you don't know who it is. And you're watching through the whole show as it's drip-feeding you. Huh?
But surely he knows who it is.
No, because... they all, a couple of years beforehand, they all pretty much dressed the same and had the same hair and everything else. It's only in the prior years that they all built their own personalities and came out their shells. They were kind of like, he dated them when they were 12 or 13, and he was 12 or 13, had his heart broken, sworn off girls, and now they're like 15 or 16. He's tutoring them, and they've all got their own personalities. So... yeah, it's interesting, and it's very slice of life, but
high school and the long lost love. So 3 classic anime tropes. I reckon there is a formula that you can make any anime show. All you need is the right combination of tropes.
Yeah, I don't lie. I like trash anime. Me and the wife really.
Anime that has schoolgirls with red hair.
No, I refute that.
You
We
have a type.
we both enjoyed Kandagawa Jet Girls.
Yeah, that was because it was like Keijo, and Keijo was
So
awesome.
just to clarify for
But
the
I didn't
audience,
watch
his wife
Keijo for a redhead.
his wife has totally called him out. He's not got a leg to stand on.
So let me just go through two animes that both me and the wife had thoroughly enjoyed. Keijo, it is wrestling, but the only things you can use is your boobs and butt,
They're not redheads.
and they're on water. And then Kandagawa Jet Girls. Do you want to explain Kandagawa Jet Girls?
Kandagawa Jet Girls was like pushing the limit on what I find acceptable fan service.
Okay.
The camera angles, like seriously, nobody needs to see a camera that zooms into her ass and then somehow goes underneath past her cooch and somehow hits that narrow gap between the other girl's back and their front and then slips between their breasts and just kind of flies off. Like,
So the show was about girls.
Basically, think jet ski racing. Only
That sounds like
they have
High
like
School of the
hyper
Dead and Ikki Towson were casual by comparison.
Yeah. So this show was about. Okay.
And you keep interrupting me.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It's jet ski racing, pretty much. They have like a boost option, but they also have like water pistols for all intents and purposes. And there's specific locations on the jet ski that you can shoot, and if you hit them enough of them and build up enough damage, it nerfs the speed of the jet ski and slows it down so that you can overtake and do your lap and win.
But
you can also shoot the pilot or gunner, who's the one with the other suit, and as a safety measure, the clothes will go flying off. So
Of course.
And whatever underneath. And there's like one girl that's like a sniper, and she has the biggest tits you've ever seen. And then her pilot has the biggest hair you've ever seen. And yeah, it's just weird.
And Ben really hated this anime, didn't you?
Yeah.
well, the only thing that I really hated about it was the CG elements. From an artistic standpoint.
Really, really clunky, badly animated. It wasn't very good. And then Keijo is think sumo wrestling in the sense of you're on a platform and you have to push someone ring out, which involves landing into the pool, but you can only use your boobs or your butt.
And these...
You know how like outrageous Dragon Ball
seen
Z
clips
moves can be? Yeah, there's some like crazy moves. Like, there's one that her butt turns into
A Gatling gun.
It literally chases people around.
There was
And
a
then
butt Gatling gun.
Butt Gatling gun where she literally quick thrusts her butt out so quickly it's like getting punched in the face a million times by her ass.
And this is all on platforms in a swimming pool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, see, and people say that fighting anime is bizarre, but there's always someone who dials it up to that extra level of weird.
It's two of the animes that they're ridiculous, and that's what makes them so good. Like, they're just funny to watch. But yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed both of those.
They were reasonably good shows, to be fair. They had a good mix. Like, as long as the comedy is good in ecchi shows, you can kind of get away with it. There's...
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't mind ecchi as long as it's not too... Like, not when it's bordering that I can't believe this isn't hentai.
You mean like we sat and
When it
watched
gets
both
to
Season 1 and Season 2 of Testament of Sister New Devil?
Yeah, that was a bit like, come on.
See, the look on your face tells me everything.
Oh, it's great. It was great. But again, I wonder why Ben liked that. Could it be because the main hotness is a redhead?
Did my wife have red hair at some point? I can't remember.
I did.
I was going to say, I'm pretty certain I've got photos to prove it.
Yeah.
Not like that before any of the viewers get any funny ideas.
No, not like rude pictures. No, I had like bright red hair at one point.
Where is Mark?
Where is Chris? That is a good question. Where am I?
So, Chris.
He hasn't addled my brain that much.
I'm
going to get a drink a minute, though, because I am thirsty as hell.
Okay, no worries.
He's thirsty. I'm thirsty as well, to be fair.
This might be a good place to pause and for people to get drinks and stuff. We've got music running in the background, so it's not too bad. I've gone through all my drinks. My drinks have all gone.
If you're playing music, I can't hear it.
I might have to turn it up a little bit. It does sound very loud in my ears.
Well, that's the problem, because you're not hearing it at the volume that it's broadcasting in.
When I turn it up through Volume Mixer, it is broadcast at a louder level, so I'll turn it up to 4 and see. It's meant to be very subtle in the background, so... Yeah. So, Chris, I was just about to ask, before Mark jumps on, what's your thoughts on seasonal anime anyway? Because I know you're more of a wait until it's been confirmed as an awesome anime, and then I watch it.
I'm gonna go and get a drink.
Okay.
I don't think that's true. I mean, like, I have watched current season stuff. When I had an active Crunchyroll account, and the only reason I don't at the moment is because I've like binge watching various things on Netflix and on Amazon and on Disney Plus. You know, there's even with a lockdown, there's only so much time to watch so much stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I tend to watch because obviously, like, Crunchyroll is very good for simulcast, whereas Netflix and Amazon tend to pick up stuff later on. I think probably the point at which I was most on it, I was watching 3 current series at once. Was a couple of years ago where I was working my way through JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Attack on Titan, and maybe Berserk.
Right.
I can't remember if that overlapped at the same time. But yeah, at one point I had like 3 current shows on the go.
But they were all shows that had prior incarnations or prior series. So
and particularly were things that were a known quantity to me.
So what would make you pick up a show based on its trailer or based on its description in terms of something, an unknown commodity? Would you risk that in terms of your time, or would you...
I did with Darling and the Franxx.
Yeah.
I mean, I came to that a couple of weeks behind everybody else, but I'd seen the promo part before. Part of what sold me on that was the styles of the mechs, because the mech designer for that was also somebody who worked on Star Driver.
Yeah.
Which I quite enjoyed. Also, it's Studio Trigger, and I've seen quite a few different shows that they've done, and I've yet to come across anything that's massively...
Didn't they do Gurren Lagann?
So Gurren Lagann is Trigger, because kind of, because Gurren Lagann's distribution and creation was kind of right as Trigger was starting to form, so it's still kind of under Gainax's umbrella.
Yeah. But like, if you watch...
made Gurren Lagann after the success that went and founded Trigger.
I mean, if you go and watch Promare, which is now Trigger, or was created by Trigger, there is so many Gurren Lagann feels from watching that trailer.
Yeah, I need to watch Promare. In fact, that's actually one of the current releases that I've got listed, so I'll go through some of the bits and pieces in a moment of things that are coming out in the next few weeks.
What was that about Gurren Lagann?
So we were just talking about Studio Trigger and Gurren Lagann, but one thing you might not be aware of, it was only announced yesterday, Cyberpunk 2077 is getting its own anime adaptation.
Sod, I was going to bring this up. This came up at the press conference yesterday, confirmed that Studio Trigger are working on an anime adaptation of Cyberpunk 2077 called Edge Runners, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that comes out 2022. That's coming out.
Wow, that far away.
Yeah.
That sucks. You'd think they'd have released that before November when
It will probably be along the lines of there will be DLC that comes out along the same time that the anime gets dropped.
Yeah, I mean, I think cool. Cyberpunk is going to be on course to be quite a solid thing. 10 episode series will debut on Netflix in 2022. I believe, if I remember correctly, as well as being Studio Trigger, it's directly being worked on by.
Well, it's the same team that did Promare.
It's not just that Trigger involved. CD Projekt, which is the actual developers behind Cyberpunk 2077, are involved.
Trigger do that Darling in the Franxx?
They did.
Yeah, that's why we got onto this, because Chris was saying that Darling in the Franxx was one of the anime series he watched pretty much from the start.
Yeah, we did as well.
One thing that I found interesting as well, looking into the Cyberpunk side of things, is the creator of the original role-playing game has been so involved in the creation of Cyberpunk 2077, but also they have flown him out to Japan to work with the team on the anime series to make sure that he gives the actual sign-off in terms of the original content creator, which I think is the right way to go.
I mean, that's an interesting thing in itself, for several reasons. First and foremost, anybody who's familiar with the roleplay game Cyberpunk, the original game is Cyberpunk 2020.
Yeah.
And here we are living in a dystopian future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not nearly as good as they imagined.
Yeah, we've got all of the kind of evil supercorps and abject poverty and none of the cool cyber arms. 2020
is I thought 2019 sucked. This sucks more. I really hope that 2021 is a bit better.
Yeah, 2021 is when they're going to bring out cybernetic arms and guns that you can kind of code to yourself and stuff.
Prosthetics are a thing, and they are.
I'm going to do my be right back right now.
But I mean, in terms of like bringing the designer for the roleplay game, that's quite cool. I think one of the interesting things people have to remember is that the roleplay game in of itself is derivative of a genre, and the genre itself draws a lot from the early novelizations and writings of things like Neuromancer and stuff. So, I mean, irrespective of the game Cyberpunk, I'm just excited because anime's always been a good thing for telling cyberpunk stories in that sort of genre. And in fact, anime has kept the cyberpunk genre ticking over, I think.
I do love, God, what was it? I tried to watch this. I was looking, I really wanted some more like sci-fi, cybernetic kind of animes. And I found this thing, what was it called? Technoloise? Weirdest thing I've ever tried.
I've never watched it.
I tried to watch it, it's just too weird. But like...
I mean, Serial Experiments Lane is quite
very dated. Very dated.
Oh yeah, I mean, Textualize would have been like late 90s, I think. Yeah, Serial Experiments Lane is quite cyberpunk. Obviously, Ghost in the Shell, Dominion Tank Police.
Oh,
in fact, anything by Masamune Shirow is.
Well, Apple's sci-fi as well, wasn't
it? Exactly. Well, that's the genre that Masamune Shirow does. So yeah, he's kind of the granddaddy of cyberpunk when it comes to cyberpunk in anime. I think Psychopath is quite sort of cyberpunk. Certainly in its world and in the
technology for the civil system is.
And also the kind of society, because the kind of societies that exist in these cyberpunk stories tend to be ones where people are very regimented and controlled.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have very mixed feelings about the live-action Ghost in the Shell, but in terms of the cyberpunk aesthetic and the panic shots across the city were jaw-dropping.
There's no denying that the movie was beautiful to look at.
In fact, I must, because I haven't watched it since I got it on 4K Blu-ray, I think that's going to be something fun to do.
We went to see it in the cinema, didn't we?
Yeah.
I saw it in the cinema twice.
Yeah. So, the way I see it is, if people are rating all of the Ghost in the Shell franchises, games, movies, TV series and stuff, a lot of people actually completely rate it down because it's a mishmash of different storylines and stuff. However, I still think it's a better adaptation than the very most recent CGI Netflix version.
I enjoyed that though. I thought that was good.
It was okay, I just could not get into it.
I really liked Standalone Complex. That was
I think Standalone Complex
point for the original movie and the second movie. And then they did the Arise series. They completely changed what Motoko looked like. I don't know.
Arise is kind of.
I know it's only a body, but it annoyed me a bit. I enjoyed it. I don't think I finished all of it. And there's just like it's almost like, what was that? The one with the something in robots, where it was like different art styles.
Oh, Love Robots.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like Ghost in the Shell is kind of descended into that, where they're trying out different art and animation styles to tell like a different story. I like to view all, other than obviously Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex season 1 and 2 are linked. I just like to see each new series as it's
and Solid State
Society. Universe. Yeah, it's an alternative universe. Is Solid State Society? Because I wasn't really sure. Because
I'm pretty certain that's effectively the third series of.
Was it not just a movie version of season? Was the Laughing Man not just the movie of the first? Well, no,
right. So you get Solid State Society and then the Laughing Man. They did a Laughing Man DVD, which is kind of the condensed Laughing Man arc from.
That's what I mean. It was like a condensed movie-sization.
Solid State Society is a separate thing. Yeah. That is it's effectively the third installment in that.
Yeah, the Solid State Society was pretty much the premise of the second season, whereas the Laughing Man was the premise of the first season.
Yep.
Right. Okay. I mean, I've not actually seen all of second gig, so I don't know. But first gig was just so solid. I enjoy the original, but I mean, I actually watched the original again before seeing the live action one, and I came to the conclusion that everybody who says, well, A, it should have been like that. One, no, it shouldn't, because there'd be no point in making a shot-for-shot remake. And two, the original is actually, there's a lot of politics and psychology and kind of sociological discussions about it. It's very highbrow and very convoluted, and it doesn't translate well into.
I would love for them to do a proper manga adaptation into an anime of Ghost in the Shell. Like, I want to see her fighting a bunch of guys completely blinded, and that she is so good at hacking that she is using their own eyes to see, so that she can kick the taff out of them.
Yeah.
I want to see that. That would look so good.
So
I mean, the thing with Shirau's original work is that the narrative gets a bit more disjointed. Yes, the fighting is more brutal, but also like she's a bit of a nymphomaniac, I think, in the original work. It's.
I can edit that out. I just feel like something that's closer to the manga. Obviously, there are elements that will be cut and stuff, but I just think there are so many good scenes that would have.
You have to bear in mind is that Masamune Shirao, it's a pseudonym as well. He's a university lecturer. I can't remember what but he's a middle-aged. Well, no, I suppose like probably in his like late 50s now. University lecturer. And he's still lecturing as far as I know, but his side gig and the thing he likes doing is drawing these art books and doing little bits of narrative to link them together. But what he really likes doing is smut. That's what he's mostly been doing, is smut for the last 15 years.
So,
people want him like will you give us your blessing to make this into an anime? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Go for it.
So going back to the live action,
I spit this work out and people can do what they want with it.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Going back to the live action a bit, what's kind of come out in the past 2 years as well is the writers' room wanted to do a Ghost in the Shell inspired story, but that was completely original. But it was the producers and the execs that came down and went, we need elements from the original anime series so that we can cut that into the trailer so that we can hook the fans into watching the movie. So that kind of hamstringed the writers for adding a lot of the elements from Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 1 and 2.
Military pursuit in the camo suit against the guy running out into the water and the spider tank.
Yeah. The writers wanted to do something different, but...
Not to mention the iconic dropping backwards over the side of a building. I don't mind that. I actually don't mind that. I've always said
Just drop Mark a message.
My attitude towards it was that it's its own interpretation of the source material. Yes, it makes a lot of completely unsubtle nods, not just to the 1995 film, which is, irrespective of what I just said about how convoluted the plot is still held up as like a must-see for anime. It's a masterpiece, and probably one of the things that helped put anime on the anime down as a landmark,
as opposed to Urotsu Kodoji.
But the thing is that they need. My problem is that they watered certain things down because they thought that the audience wouldn't get it, and yet
I really hate when they just insult their audience by thinking that they are dumb and won't get stuff. Like, let the viewers decide whether they can get it or not. Like, you can. Assumptions make an ass out of you.
And I've heard various stories.
Don't assume that we're not going to get it.
I've heard various stories about producers who've pushed directors to do that, and writers and directors have had to kind of push back against studio and say, no, we are giving a framework and the freedom for the viewer to make their own interpretation.
Yeah.
If what we're trying to tell them isn't easy for them to figure out, then it should be open-ended because it's meant to be, or we should assume that the way the story is panning out, that they can figure what's going on.
But that's not just kind of hamstringing anime. That's the whole TV industry is like.
That's film production as a whole.
So Dollhouse, for example, Dollhouse was Joss Whedon's new Firefly, as it were.
Dollhouse was his procedural crime drama, wasn't it?
Yeah, but what happened was season 2, he set up a story arc for season 2. And partway, like episode 3 or episode 4, where you would normally see a dip in viewing ratings, the exec saw a viewing drops. So they were like, "Oh no, you're obviously doing something wrong," and directly interfered with the writing process for that show. He fought against it, but they kind of contractually moved him to one side. And then because they messed around with the show in season 2. It kept dropping and kept dropping and kept dropping, and then it got cancelled. And I feel like execs and producers don't always know what's best for the fans, because the fans will stick with it.
Yeah. Well, before we go too far down that tangent, there's a particular thing that I want to address with Ghost in the Shell, because it's the thing that, quite frankly, irritates the hell out of me. And it's the thing that killed the film before it even came out, was the accusations of whitewashing. Let me preface this by saying I'm not saying the whitewashing isn't a thing. It absolutely is. And
it's when people get offended for the sake of the person that they think is going to be offended. Thousands of Japanese people were like, I am way okay with this.
The director
I think it's the issue with
came onto set and he said Scarlett Johansson, great casting choice for it. And as you said, a lot of the Japanese fans were like, well, of course they're going to cast an American actress.
Yeah.
But what cemented it for me was that, I didn't hear anywhere near as much complaints when about a year and a half, 2 years later, Alita came out. Nobody seemed to go, oh, she's not Asian. And they seem to,
for goodness sake.
Yeah, and they CG'd her eyes
to
be like
bigger
eyes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, it was based off of an anime. Why wouldn't it look slightly like an anime?
My point was, though, is the criticisms that were put against Ghost in the Shell weren't put against Alita.
It's because people are frustrated with the fact that there are a lot of roles with actors that are perfect for it, but they get overlooked because they are Asian or a person of colour.
Yeah.
And it is a big problem in Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely.
But you've got to pick your battles, and
so it's
the people who you think are going to be offended decide whether they're offended. You don't get to be offended for them because you are erasing their voice. Let them talk about it.
On the subject of that, and kind of paralleling what's going on in the world right now, and this is kind of like literally a prime example of jumping on something after the fact. How many years ago did Tropical Thunder come out?
Tropic Thunder, like 10 years?
The blackface.
Yeah, suddenly.
Who was it? Freaking Freddie Prinze Jr., wasn't it?
No, it's Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, Robert Downey Jr. What did I say?
Yeah, Iron Man.
Completely different actor. I know.
People are going, oh my god, I can't believe it's Robert Downey Jr. And they're suddenly being offended by blackface. Well, you weren't offended at the time. And that proves your point in there. It's people being politically correct and going, oh, we must be offended about this because if
let's
you're not,
not say blackface is not okay at all.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
At the time, the company decided to cast Robert Downey Jr. in a black role, so the only way of actually doing that was doing what they did.
Tropic Thunder, he was an actor, it was portraying a white actor pretending to be, like, wasn't it satire or
that's the thing.
Something like that?
It's a bit of a weird one because they're acknowledging in the film that they're making a film and that he is a black... because the film that they're making... Sorry, hang on. Tropical Thunder is filmed... the film Tropical Thunder is set during the 70s when they're filming a film that is also called Tropical Thunder, just to be confusing. And they, during the course of it, explain that he is a white dude playing a white dude playing a black dude. So
it's slightly insensitive, but I feel like they were perhaps trying to make a point.
Oh yeah.
Of how it's not okay, but obviously it wasn't received that way.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not the director. I can't speak for them.
Oh god.
I never watched it because
58.
I didn't want to.
John Wayne, well known for all of those Western.
I hate John Wayne.
Starred in a film called The Conqueror about Genghis Khan, and they Asianed up John Wayne.
So Mark is 3 minutes out.
If you're going to have an Asian character and you choose to recast them as a white character, right? It's problematic. But when you have an Asian character and you cast a white person and you try and make that white person look Asian, that is 10 times worse.
Oh yeah.
Just give it to a fucking Asian person. Excuse my French.
This comes back to what I said.
Let them have the role. Don't do that. It's just crap. Don't do it.
This comes back to what I started with, which is I fully acknowledge that Hollywood has a problem with this. But like you said, people are upset about Ghost Shell because they felt they should be. But if you look at the source material, it's a cybernetic body. There
was a thing that was a little while back, and they actually went to, they surveyed a load of people in Japan about different manga shots and stuff like that, and they didn't, when asked about it, they said that the animated characters or the manga drawn characters in those manga panels, they didn't see them as Asian, they just saw them as manga characters, and this whole stereotype and everything around the way that things are drawn or the way things are animated to look more Asian or whatever.
I don't think anime characters look Asian.
I don't. They almost look more Western than they do Asian in a lot of scenarios.
They're all their own thing. I think with anime, with the storytelling platform the way it is, it's everyone thinks that they are them.
Okay.
Germans will be like, they look like Germans. And Japanese people are like, they look Japanese, or they don't look Japanese, and we'll be like, well, they look like...
Until, of course, they try and do a stereotype. If they do a stereotype in anime, then yes.
Like, I don't like how they portray people of colour in Japanese. They always exaggerate the nose, they exaggerate the lips.
Talk about.
They always give them like a gangster like voice and that lot. But I feel like if they just had more people come over to Japan that are people of color to show them that that stereotype is BS, you know, then they would know how to portray them properly. But they don't. There's not a lot in Asia, in Japan. I don't see many people of color. It's not. Their population isn't very high over there.
There's two things there that I really want to pick up on. One is the overall cultural background, the demographic in Japan, and the other one is black characters in anime. Other than when you've got blatantly American characters in anime, which have lots of Americanisms, as you say, most of the characters, especially in science fiction or fantasy settings, their nationality tends to be
ambiguous.
Yeah. And certainly a lot of their fantasy stuff tends to fall into the more kind of Dungeons & Dragons, more Western European-centric visuals. So it becomes harder and harder to kind of draw the line there. Yeah. But black characters always stand out, partly because you don't see many of them, and also partly because so many of them are bad stereotypes. And
I think I was just gonna on that point. Do you remember Steins Gate? That bit when Okabe meets that pin badge seller in the alleyway, who happens to be a black character, and he tries to talk to him like what the stereotype is, like, oh, it's so cool, like you know, like this, and the guy's just like, what you want, mate? Do you want a badge? Like it was just like, I think it was done a lot better than some other anime.
But then some of the exaggeration of the anime characters kind of fits depending on what anime you're doing. So, what was the Neverland one we saw? Where actually they were trying to create horror scenes around the black character in terms of the orphans and stuff like that. And the exaggeration of the features wasn't just exaggerated on her, but when there was horror scenes about the other characters.
It's like the face contortions that some characters do. Like what show was it where I can't remember what it was, but you had like a bad guy, and at first they were drawn really nice. And then, as you found out about how horrible they were, as the main character uncovered it, their inside ugly came out, and they were suddenly drawn like grotesquely. And then he took them out. I can't remember what show it was, or whether I just imagined it all. God, what was it called?
That feels like that's an actual show, but it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, but I thought that was an interesting. So I can kind of get where you come from in the sense of like an exaggerated features is just like kind of like the pwn face. Oh, there he is.
Yes, hello. Sorry.
Hello.
That worked! Oh my god!
You actually bumped us all into the right boxes? Yeah.
Yes! Woo! Success!
The hair looks completely white from that angle. I'm just going to say that.
Exactly.
How was Beast Morphers?
Dude, they have paid off 11-year-old story and they nailed it. It literally, everyone's just gone, holy crap.
Is that why you were taking so long?
Yeah, like I had to record my my reaction, and then obviously I had to film the thing. But dear God, did they pay off the end of RPM perfectly? I was just like, yeah. They literally. Are you guys gonna watch it, or do you want me to kind of like spoil it?
I mean, to be fair, even if you spoiled it, I'd probably.
Yeah, but more about viewers, like how many people. I can't tell.
I mean, if you can do it in a quick one-liner or two-liners.
Evox is Vengix.
What's that for,
I don't know how to put it in because it's a big enough thing. I don't know what your chat is saying if they are following the whole thing.
Nobody is.
But it has. Okay. So basically, do you know how at the very end of RPM, when you saw like the morphers, the light flash, and you're like, oh, could that be Vengix? Maybe he downloaded himself into a morpher. You don't know. And it never got answered because obviously that's when it was meant to kill the franchise. So in the last episode, they captured Evox. They locked them all up, and they're all like going, oh, hang on a minute. Why does he want to be in here? So they all go, oh, okay, well, we'll forget about that. They create this thing to destroy Ewoks completely, which I was like, yeah, that's what they're going to do. They shoot him a few times. He then puts himself into the computers, goes all around the base, then gets the RPM morphers, opens it up and goes, yeah, I'm just taking that back now, thanks. Then turns around and messes with Nate and goes, you know who I am. And then it goes on from that one. And basically they end up messing it up, and Dr. K comes back. She actually comes into the episode and she looks nice.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a very good episode, and I was, oh my god, all the way through.
So moving on from Beast Morphers, the main discussion we've had so far, apart from a bunch of tangents, is what anime have we been watching recently? So Mark, what anime have you been watching recently?
I was watching New Game Plus, which is about game developers in anime. So basically, it's a girl who wants to be a character designer, and that's basically the story that they follow in. I watched How I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which made me cry and broke me.
I've heard about that, but I wasn't really sure from the title what the hell it was about.
It's basically about a girl
who wants to eat a pancreas.
No, she has I can't even say the word. Basically, she has.
And he's frozen.
Basically, they have an epic plot hanger.
I think that's a good time to feed you, isn't it, eh? I'll be right back. The cats want food.
And he's back. You froze.
Pause. I don't want to miss this. I just got to feed the cats. Talk about something else.
Okay. Are you still uploading at the moment?
No, I'm rendering at the moment.
Okay.
Normally, when I go upstairs, my Wi-Fi goes a bit funny when I come upstairs. So, because it's a long-ish episode or video, I'm rendering out. So.
Okay. That's fine. You just literally froze for about 30 seconds when you went. The movie was about
this. It's a very good film. What else have I been watching? So I'll wait until Annette comes back.
Okay, so what's the anime about?
So basically, this girl has been diagnosed with terminally ill cancer of the pancreas, and it's all about how she writes in this book about her kind of memories and about what she does on a day-to-day thing. She meets this guy who's in her classroom, and he's at the hospital, and he finds the book, and it has everything that she's done, and then she decides to tell him about the secret. Like, no one else knows about this, and it's basically like the happy-go-lucky stuff, like things that they want to do on her bucket list. And then the ending literally broke me to the point where I had to hold in myself crying because it was that powerful, and I've never experienced that with anime.
You should watch Plastic Memories.
You should watch Plastic Memories next. It's great.
Maybe.
Right. So, do you tend to follow seasonal anime, or do you just tend to follow it when it gets popular, or you know that it's been highly regarded in terms of the anime that's coming out? Or do you see the seasonal charts and go, that sounds interesting, I'm going to start it from episode 1 and see how it looks? That was called Eat the Pancreas. What was it?
I want to eat your pancreas.
I want to eat your pancreas.
Sorry, somebody's just asked in the chat.
Yeah, it's I want to eat your pancreas, but it was named differently in Japan.
What's it say?
So it's just the translation. I kind of watch what catches my eye. That's the main kind of thing that I like. If it's seasonal, I'll watch it. But part of me wants to watch the dubbed version more than subs at times, because if I watch it in subs, I'll have to really pay attention, and sometimes if you miss something, then it can kind of ruin it.
Okay.
I think the only one I watched religiously was Dragon Ball Super when that aired first, because I wanted to watch it as it came out, and luckily it was on Crunchyroll about everything.
That's fair. So far everything has worked as planned. So I'm going to try and switch to the screen sharing mode and then we can have a quick look at the seasonal anime that's coming out this coming season and see if there's anything that stands out to people that they're interested in watching and stuff. So, if you bear with me 2 seconds, I'm going to switch to screen sharing. There.
He's hoping this works.
Share screen, and then YouTube with Opera. Let's have a look. Go live. Right.
Watch stream, here we go.
Let's have a quick look.
Just want to make sure everything's looking fine on the stream.
It looks like a mobile phone kind of window. It's tiny. I can't see or read any of it.
Okay, well, I'm trying to work it whilst we've paused this to save resources. Well, that's a pain in the ass. Every time I click off it, it does not look proper.
Oh, that's better. Yeah, that's now we're talking. Yeah,
See,
now I can see what it is.
Yes, but I cannot see it. Every time I click off Discord, it comes off. So,
Oh my god.
which is a pain. Right, we can jump in and have a quick look at second season of Ray Zero. What's people's thoughts?
I'll be watching that.
Okay, do you want to see the trailer for the second season of Ray Zero?
Yeah.
Right, let's try and get this working properly.
Ray Zero Season 2 trailer.
Yep, that's basically what I'm going to do. You'll have to tell me whether you can hear the audio.
Okay.
Oh, so this is...
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, okay, I've not seen this trailer. Saw the first one.
Oh!
I thought that was Ben.
なるほど。それが君の欲の根幹か。なかなか興味深いことだね。
I can't believe I'm here.
I'm on the Windows tonight.
驚かせてしまったか
I
な。
was just in the town. What? Who are you?
人と話すのはずいぶん久しぶりだから。つい気持ちが流行っ
If he
てしまっ
tries to
た。
say anything, she's like,
僕の
It's
名前
Amelia, but it's not Amelia.
oh, I
強
know he's a
欲の
kid
魔
now.
女と。そう名乗った方が通りがいいかな。
I'm calling it, it's part of Higurashi. She said she's a witch. It's a Mineko. Yay, best girl! Not best girl. No way.
None.
歩き続けた今を決しては
These are all just clips from season 1. That's it.
Most of the stream. I think this is being streamed on Discord. It's like,
I can't do it. You can't. Goddamn.
Felix!
Felix is best girl.
Felix is best boy.
Well, at least Rem is actually in it, unlike a lot of the manga readers have said.
Yeah, because they probably what they've done is they've gone. She sells.
Yeah, girl.
So rather than follow the manga, they've just gone. Let's add her in, frick everyone else off, and sell some more merch.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yep, I'm okay with it. Ew, ew, ew. Yay. Ew.
Calling it now, Amelia kills Rem.
Screw you, Amelia. Oh, Ram, nobody cares about you.
No, Amelia.
Wait, was Ram actually in that?
Yeah.
Ram was in that for a second, just for a split second.
Right,
So what
I'm
else are we
gonna
gonna
try
have?
something interesting and create a new browser source so that I can both play it to the audience and play it to you guys at the same time.
that might help if we want to comment on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so we were commenting on something and nobody could tell what we were commenting on. We were
They
like, yes,
could,
yes,
but I
yes.
kept having to flip between the two.
Well done, man.
Right, let's add...
So that series, Ray Zero, Starting Life in Another World Season 2, will be available from the 8th of July on Crunchyroll, for those who are interested.
Thank God we have a Crunchyroll subscription. because screw watching that with adverts.
But everyone loves the adverts. How do you know if you don't want to watch something?
I've been stuck in an advert loop for like 20 times.
The adverts are fine on a computer.
When they work.
Trying to watch them on tablet, when you get 5
adverts in a row,
adverts,
and they're all the same advert. It's like, no.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I paid to have subscription. And when I start using Crunchyroll again, I will renew my subscription.
Can you guys still see me do that?
Yes.
Happy days, because now the audience can also see me do. It's blurred.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
It's focusing now. It's getting there. It's just taking a while. That's readable at least.
So we've got it sorted by popularity. So
that's second season of Aino Shabatai. Yes.
Yep. So the second most popular series after Ray Zero is apparently this Yahari Ore no Seishun love comedy whatever comedy drama romance. It's a third season of something about a service club band for a school prom.
That sounds lame.
Yeah, let's move on. Right, Sword Art Online. I'd imagine, Mark, you're going to be watching this.
Well, God of the High School. What's that?
To be honest, I've not actually watched the latest season of Sword Art Online.
Okay.
I literally, I think I was waiting for it to come out in English because I've watched it in English.
Yeah.
The alkalization is where they've started to move into more of an overarching narrative, because obviously the first season and the second season have connecting threads, but they're a bit of a standalone narrative. The third season, Kirito ends up unconscious in this other world, whilst there's loads of stuff going on outside, and almost he's being hijacked, and his unconscious body's being shuffled around outside.
Okay.
And when that series ended, this War for the Underworld series started. So
what?
I've not seen any of War for the Underworld, but I need to catch up. But that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Just a segue. Someone just private messaged me. What was the anime we spoke about after the Pancreas one?
After the Pancreas. Oh, Plastic Memories.
Plastic Memories. That's it. Plastic.
Have any of you seen the first season of this? Aina no Shobutai.
Sorry, hang on.
It's the Fire Precinct, guys. If you haven't, it is so cool. Let's do and then.
It's really funny because it kind of came out around the same time as Premiere, and they're very similar plot lines.
If anybody's interested, the new Sword Art Online one will start from Saturday the 11th of July.
Also, I want to talk about the God of High School after this because it starts with the tournament arc, so it's bound to be good.
Tournament arc?
I don't know what that anime is, so...
What, this one?
Either explain it to me. Sorry, hang on, I'm doing like two things at once.
Basically, people spontaneously combust, and the fire department is like gets called out to try and take them out and stop them. Basically,
fire.
Yeah, the worst death in the world is spontaneously combust, and then there seems to be like sinister things going on, and there's like it's good.
Yeah, so I'll put season 2 trailer up so you got more of an idea of what it is.
This again will be on Crunchyroll. This actually starts next week on the 3rd.
The animation in this is very, very nice looking. We were very impressed.
Isn't it the same people that did Soul Eater?
Yeah, I think it was.
She got an oversized party hat covering her eye.
It did look like that.
Why have firefighters got rifles?
Because sometimes the fire gets out of hand.
And you got
I'm looking at the poses and the way they're fighting, and I can't help but think that this is Full Metal Firefighter.
Kind of.
Fire Force coming soon to Anime Lab. What is Anime Lab?
Let me tell you.
AnimeLab.com.
That's on the list. Anime Lab is a Australia New Zealand streaming service, so they've got it.
That might have just been the trailer for it to be streaming on there, and it's still streaming.
Yes.
But yeah,
So,
God of High School.
It all began as a fighting tournament to seek out for the best fighter among all the high school students in Korea. Oh, so this is probably from a Korean. Yeah.
Korean. Okay.
I can't remember what they call that.
Not manga.
It's not.
It's almost like webcomic, isn't a lot of the Korean manga is like webcomics more than anything.
There's a specific word for it, but I can't remember what it's called.
Then there is something.
The Firefighters one will be available on Fridays, starting the 3rd, so next week.
Ooh. So, God of High School.
You still got the E on there.
Yeah, I've just noted.
There we go.
School trailer.
Always says episode 1 on it.
It's a Crunchyroll original.
We're not sponsored by Crunchyroll, but this seems to keep happening.
To be fair, like, it's a good source for getting stuff in the UK.
Yeah.
Hey, it's that that guy from Digimon.
I apologise if there's any background noise, but I've got my window open so hot and the local wildlife's getting rowdy.
知力と暴力両方が揃えば誰にも負けない
私の体は鉄よりタフよ
今のは君の勝ちかな
Boring.
いかなる武術剣術バトルスタイルも許される異種格闘技
There's something very different about the style of it, like the nose.
Yeah, red nose.
それが我々のゴッド・オブ・ハイスクールだ
It's obviously a Japanese job of Korean anime.
Got a good soundtrack. What's it look like?
I guess it was Korean anime and dubstep.
Because dubstep's like. I'd watch that.
What the hell? That looked like something from freaking
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Shaman King.
Or
No, when you summon the
JoJo,
thing
somebody
behind him, it
pulling
looked like
their
Shaman King.
gun from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures.
I was saying Shaman King.
Either or.
So that was
No,
God.
like,
You go, Chris.
And Deck.
I was going to say that might take my interest. As I've just started watching the latest part of Baki the Grappler on Netflix, that sort of seems similar sort of thing of fighting anime. So yeah.
I'm liking the look of the next anime on the list.
That will be streamed
Decadence
on
looks
Monday.
nice, but
starting on
Kanojo
the 6th.
Okarishimasu.
Oh, that's interesting. It's no longer showing the list. Hang on. Stupid. There we go. So, in today's Japan, rental services can deliver an afternoon with a friend, a parent, or even a fake girlfriend.
This is rent a girlfriend.
After a staggering betrayal by his girlfriend, hapless
Kanojo
Frenchman
means girlfriend, doesn't it?
gets just desperate enough to give it a try. So,
And then they fall in love.
Oh, sorry. You said freshman for a minute. I thought you said Frenchman. I was like, what? When I was making assertions that the French like rent a girlfriend.
so this is ecchi as a tag. So
this is relevant to your interest.
it is very relevant to my interests.
She does have strawberry red blonde hair.
I hear cute girl.
Sorry, I won't date you, girl. I can't get a girlfriend. Why?
Oh, I've seen that anime character before. She stabs somebody through the chest and then he ends up being a demon. Isn't that the start of...
Oh wait, main character gets a girlfriend and she's just like,
Shinny?
I'm a rental.
So this is Pretty Woman, the anime.
Each episode.
Please be psycho.
Oh, hello.
You're right, beach episode.
You disgust me, but you give me 5,000 yen and I'll love you forever. Oh, I always love it when animes go, hello.
I see, so he's renting.
Wait, what? Now he has a girlfriend, a fake girlfriend, suddenly everyone wants to be his girlfriend?
No, I'm going to pretend.
Of course, it's a harem anime.
And then he's got to try and get with them.
He's got to juggle.
That he's cheating on his girlfriend. That isn't even his girlfriend. He's paying her.
I reckon what's going to happen is he's going to hire loads of them, and they're all going to fall in love with him, and he'll be like, I don't know who to choose. Who do I choose?
No, I think Annette's right. I think it's the one girl he's hired, and she doesn't care because it's transactional, but he's probably afraid of upsetting her, and he doesn't want to seem like he's skeevy and cheating on his girlfriend, so he's trying to woo these other
No, but I mean,
women.
like, he might be interested in another girl, but she wasn't interested in him.
Well, it sounds like he was
He had
interested
the
in
fake
blonde.
girlfriend, and then now that he's got the fake girlfriend, suddenly she's interested. But now, because he's got a fake girlfriend, he's got to not look like an asshole and just dump her to get with the girl that he wanted anyway. He's got to kind of like play the. I don't know.
Can somebody read the next two rather than me reading them?
Decadence.
If you're
First,
interested in
and then
watching,
we'll attempt the obvious light novel.
if you want to watch the Rent-A-Girlfriend, that is available from Thursday the 9th of July on Crunchyroll.
I mean,
Do
that one says...
do you want me to try and read that one first?
we can go for that one. It says comedy fantasy.
So it's Mao Gakuin no Futigosha Shijo Sakyo no Mao no Shizo. God, it's
Well done, Ben, for doing that.
Sentachi no Gakko I Kayo. I have no idea how to pronounce any of that.
Is Chris gonna have a go now?
Well, the English version of it is called The Misfit of Demon King Academy.
Yeah. Despite their appetite for destruction, even demon kings tire of all the blood and chaos sometimes. When Anof reincarnates in the hopes of a more peaceful life, he ends up going to school with his descendants in his old castle 2,000 years later.
Misfits.
So it's a paranormal high school anime set
sounds like
in a
this should be
castle.
amusing.
Yeah.
Just from the thumbnail alone, I'm getting Anno Exorcist vibes.
Yes, yeah.
The one that I'm going to be watching is
No Guns
Yuzaki-chan.
Life 2. What?
No. Yuzaki-chan, where she wants to be friends with everyone. I think that's the one that I want, because that was the controversy that happened in Japan with the giving blood. Some people tried to get cancelled because she had too bigger boobs.
That might be further down the list, so we can have a nosy in a minute. Should we watch the trailer for this one?
Yeah.
Anipalex.
Anipalex.
よく聞け、愛しき子孫どもよ。お前たちの始祖は帰る。
It's got an owl in it, so Annette's interested.
I was interested from his voice alone, but yeah, an owl's voice.
Oh, tune.
2,000 years ago, there was a man fused by all the Demon King. So much how it go. I've never seen this before.
This is kind of like Arno Exorcist and Asterix Wars.
Oh, Twin Tails.
With a bit of DXD mixed in.
Ben's like, research? Research? Right now.
It doesn't have the ecchi tag, though, so I'm a bit disappointed.
Give it time, Ben. Give it time.
It still looks good. History's strongest demon king, what? Reincarnates and goes to school.
Reincarnates and goes to school with his descendants.
That looks kind of interesting.
And Decadence, that one.
And that
I think we
literally
saw a
comes out
trailer
on
for
the
that
4th
before.
of
It looked
July.
interesting.
So Decadence. Do you want to have a look at Decadence?
What's Decadence?
This one.
Everything's like really
Something to
blurry.
do with engineers and stuff, but it's blurred.
So many years have passed since humanity was driven to the brink of extinction by the sudden emergence of the unknown life forms known as Gadol. These humans that survived now dwell in 3,000-meter high mobile fortress Decadence built to protect themselves.
Sounds a bit like that. What was that? City Wars or whatever movie that came out where all the cities were on wheels.
Morph Legends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, I saw a trailer for
the
this.
concept of municipal Darwinism is a fantastic concept.
Nut.
Not.
世界人口の9割が失われるに至った未知の生命体ガドルとの戦い。人類はそれに対抗しうる手段としてその英知を結集し超大型の移動要塞を作り上げた。
Decadence。
それがデカダンス。我々人類にとって最後の砦、そして新たな希望。
She's annoying.
Give it time.
何をしても変えられないものがある。諦めろ。そいつは弱みなんかじゃない。
Given that it's a fortress city, given that they've got like giant enemy foes, I think this is going to appeal to the kind of people who like Attack on Titan. But
It's got a...
But it's got the crazy roster of characters that you expect in your kind of Gurren Lagann.
I was about to say, it's got a bit of a Gurren Lagann feel.
Yeah, that kind of puts me off.
Really?
Get out of this chat now. Get out.
Bye.
You're not welcome. Get out.
Bye.
Gurren Lagann is great. Sure.
Sorry, are you about to say you do not like Gurren Lagann?
Yeah, Gurren Lagann.
Why?
Fan of it. Didn't really like it.
So that is a Funimation exclusive, so you can only watch that on Funimation.
Oh, that's annoying.
Okay. What? Like, I need to understand this. Like...
You've broken him, like...
I watched it.
Yeah.
Watched a few episodes, and I just went...
There was your mistake. You only watched the first few episodes.
Doesn't understand how crazy the bell curve gets.
You need to get to at least episode 8, and then it just goes...
Robots. Come on,
Ah.
man.
I reckon if I found an anime that you guys liked, and you'd be like, I only watched the first episode, and I didn't like it. I'm sure we talked about this the other day. You're like, watched one episode, didn't like it, didn't watch it, didn't want it.
I know, but it's Gurren Lagann.
So?
It inspired things like Kill la Kill that you like.
I didn't. I watched a tiny bit of Kill la
We're both
Kill.
just
You did a review on Kill la Kill and several Kill la Kill figures.
No, I've never done
Yeah, but
a
he was
Kill la
paid.
Kill.
I thought you did.
No, I bought one, and then I didn't like it, and I needed money, so I sold one of the figures, which was the girl with the in white.
Yeah.
But I've never reviewed Kill la Kill.
I thought you had the anime series. That's my bad.
Nope.
Disappoint.
I have the
Watching
anime
stuff.
series on Blu-ray.
Moving on before this descends into rage against Mark for not liking.
Right, so
For
we've got...
apparently hating everything Trigger have ever made.
Yeah. So, what's that?
I'm a bit disturbed that this has an image like that, and it says it's an ecchi anime. I'm sat there going...
Oh, this is that one with where he's best friends with this girl, and she doesn't know that she's adorable, but she has massive boobs.
Yep.
And he starts liking her, but she doesn't. Yeah, she's really socially awkward. It's really funny. Bless me.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Play that one, Ben.
Let's go for the 1 minute 51 trailer.
So this anime can be best be described as boing.
Got Milk, the anime.
You want to watch? I'll treat you to it.
Oh great, she's short, but oh Jesus.
Literally,
She's short and got a rat.
yeah, that's literally everything that in this few clips.
And
like,
is doing all of the. What? All of the activities to.
Back massage.
Small, busty, and incredibly energetic. I know people like this.
Hey!
Got the anime version of Dragon.
So let's just all hope she's over 20.
Well, I was just thinking,
Oh,
small,
it's an obvious
energetic, large.
She's got the straggletooth thing as well.
What about Yi? Our friend Yi.
She's probably watching this. Let's not comment on ye.
But she's awesome.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, there you go. Is she going to lick the sweat off him?
I don't know.
Hang on. Right, there are no flat-chested girls. All of the girls in this are racked.
No,
Bloody hell.
Is this the one you were on about, Mark?
Yeah, this is the one that in Japan that they a load of SJWs tried to get her taken down, but it wasn't people in Japan. It was people in America saying like, "How dare she be on the thing to drive like for blood?" And because they had that character on, she literally drew more people in to kind of draw blood. And then when they got rid of it and just put up a normal sign, it all went downhill, and just no one cared. And I was just like, I need to watch this anime because I think that's the only reason why it got made. Like, it may be one of the reasons for it.
What was that called again?
Uzaki-chan wa Asabatai?
Yep. Something like that. I'm going to be watching that one. I might review
We're
it
probably
as well.
gonna watch that as well.
Know where that's being streamed? Because I can't see.
It says 13 days, so you're talking a Thursday in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, no, but where?
It'll be crunch. It will literally
Online.
be Crunchyroll.
Definitely
I've
do
got-
not go to
I've got-
sites like Nya or anything like that to acquire it,
I've
or
got-
horrible
I've got
subs.
a list of Funimation and Crunchyroll stream series. It's not on either of those.
Okay, so it may be a case of having to go to
Could
less
be Amazon.
legitimate sources to try and watch that series.
Don't think it's on Amazon.
So the next one down, like, has anybody seen No Guns Life 2? Oh, sorry, No Guns Life.
I haven't seen that, but it's by Studio Madhouse, and they're normally pretty good for stuff. And it's action drama sci-fi, which is something that's interesting.
Isn't that the one where the guy had a gun for a head?
Oh, it is. Yes, it is. It is season 2 of that. I've just seen the guy in the grey in the front with the blue at the back. He's got a gun for a head. Yeah, I did kind of want to watch that for the concept.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What, the guy with the gun for a head?
Yeah, that. I mean, that's a thing, right?
Yeah. Right.
Hanging.
So
The opening weirdly reminds me of Recreators.
When Billy Harris is
Yeah,
good,
the soundtrack's
Billy
very like
is a
that.
gun
Isn't it?
for a head.
What's Kaneki doing in there?
4月より放送スタート。てめえの願いは俺が叶えてやる。
I wanted to watch season 1, but
褒められた。
Well, that was the
Got
trailer.
Magnum for a head.
yeah, it literally has.
Like-
I was think it would be more explained in the second one. Do you want to look at Monster Mezumu no Aoshi-san?
So this has no link to the other Monster Musume series. Although they have replicated all of the same creatures to have as ecchi creatures within the show. So that's...
So in the town of Lindworm, where monsters and humans coexist, Dr. Glenn runs an exemplary medical clinic for monster girls with his Lamia assistant, Sephi. Whether receiving a marriage proposal by a centaur injured in battle, palpitating the injury of ... It doesn't give the synopsis.
It's
No Guns Life, again, Funimation, if people are interested.
What was it? No...
Oisha.
Oisha.
Oishi-san. There you go.
Well, that thumbnail alone.
I've got so many questions.
I didn't see the thumbnail.
I can return to the thumbnail in a second.
そしてここリンドブルムの町では人間と魔族が当たり前のように共存するようになった
Is she
Super generic protagonist.
その助手をしております私
Random snake girl.
He looks a bit like Albedo from Overlord.
Mm.
Like in the face area.
They team up together. Boobs.
Is she putting the breast back into breastplate?
たくさんの魔族が
Oh!
What the? She's
Put his
got
fingers
gills.
in her gills.
もう少し
And that's how they get themselves off.
Bloody hell.
困りますよ
If you've seen an interview with Monster Girls, then you'll love this. If you've seen Living with Monster
Oh
Girls,
God.
you'll enjoy this even more.
Because who doesn't want to fap to a hot Cyclops chick?
If you enjoyed Interspecies Reviewers,
これ以上のライブの出現は
I'm just like,
I
what
bet
the
this-
hell?
許せません
I
I
love
bet
that
this
that
doesn't
was
get
the
that.
thumbnail as well.
yep.
I bet this doesn't get banned. Like interspecies
You know
reviewers.
what? Yeah.
Oh my word.
Oh wait, we got the dancing anime girl.
That's gonna be a
Watch
GIF.
this video. Watch this episode for this. What's the thumbnail? Show me the thumbnail.
So, Studio LA Unchbox or Launchbox with Gibiate. It's just a straight-up action show about 2030 Japan, where a virus has infected humans throughout the world, and infected people turn into different forms of monsters based on their ages, sexes, and races. The virus is known Gibeah after being a rich in variety like Gibeah.
Well, I know what one we need to be talking about next.
What?
Tokyo Hentai X Eros. Come on. H Eros.
Yeah, that's going to be...
Isn't that one where it's basically taking the mickey out of Super Sentai, but with girls, but it's to do with hentai, but it's
we'll find out in a minute.
Hentai, but yeah.
Who?
Curious about seeing the trailer for that Gibeah.
Yeah, I can put Gibi. Well, it's Gibiate.
Or Gibiate, sorry.
Gibiate.
Let's see.
The official trailer. Crunchyroll original.
Oh, Crunchyroll seems to be dominating the anime in the new life thing, doesn't they?
Giving it who's who of the production team.
Mm. Ooh. Ooh, the font's very similar to another anime that's on.
Opening song.
Those...
ここは私が引き受けた
Alright, Ninja Scroll.
Samurai.
I was just thinking that.
I think he's a samurai from like the Edo period that's been pulled forward in time to fight with the Gibiate or Gibio or something. It's weird. Well, I hope that isn't a demonstration of what the voice is. No.
Yeah, it's
Really
design is very this is a
This
real
is really badly
throwback.
edited trailer.
Yeah.
参る
Finally, the ending song revealed.
Across Time by Endless.
It's not as good as the opening song.
神様
Because the opening song had a shamisen.
力を与
Yeah.
Shamisen for Autumn.
They are.
This is bound to be in the J-pop quiz for next year.
Yeah. Reminds me a bit of like some of the ending themes for like Garo.
This is weird because this section of clips looks a lot more contemporary, whereas the first half looked very kind of throwback to.
I'm not.
80s.
I don't think I'm gonna watch Gibiate. It doesn't look.
It,
very
I would be willing to give it a 3 episodes chance.
interesting.
Yeah, I might dip in for that.
Look
So-
how also the Docu Hentai HRS action comedy romance, not ecchi or anything, but it has hentai in the title.
The story is the story of the series follows Reto Enjo, a high school student who joins the superhero team Hexoros in order to combat the dreaded Kisai Mushi, a race of alien invaders that feeds off the collective libidos of the human race.
Oh, of course they do.
I feel like this is the opportunity for greatness.
Docu Hexoros anime.
Yeah.
Has anybody watched Assassination Classroom?
look at the
In the
thumbnail, the
chat.
third one down.
I haven't. I've heard good things about it though.
Yeah, it's
I
one
know
of
of
Guys,
it.
guys, before he clicks it, the thumbnail of the third video down, I think pretty much sums up what this anime is all about.
I mean that.
I feel that it's going to do exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Should we see what that is?
Anybody who is going to be
Let's
disappointed
do the
by
top
this.
video first, the PV1.
Should we do both, 1 and 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hexeros.
But it's not etchy. In the tag.
Give it time, Annette. Give it time.
Hang on, was he actually dragging her by...
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, this would be something I'll probably watch.
Portal Hunters, go!
Oh, please let the girls. Please let the girls become.
Does their transformation sequence involve burning their outfits off? Because it looks like it does.
Oh, that was kind of a non-trailer.
Yeah.
Let's watch the
So we'll
one.
watch trailer 2.
They even say it like a sentai. Come on.
Good. I like it. Oh, this looks like it's going to be a fun anime.
This
Yeah.
feels like a Kiba
Giant-titted alien monster.
What the hell?
It's like...
It's kind of a bit like a Kiba Ranger, isn't it?
Yeah. Cross with that and Akiba Strippers you mentioned.
Yeah. What was going on there?
Hexero Blue!
The Ranger. But then.
Okay!
The classic anime trope of there might be nudity, but we've hired lens flare from what's his name?
There's an anime I was watching, and they actually reference that. Like, do you know what? If I was to ever make a
Has she got a pet snake?
yeah, I would go to Fiverr, hire a Japanese man to go shout the henshin. You how creature shall do it. Konnichiwa.
Well, that's Muhyo Toroji no
Mahoritsu.
Soden Jimusho 2.
That was a season 2 of something.
Why do they have to name them so difficult? Can they not just translate the titles?
It's probably based off a light novel series.
Probably.
Mujo and
Koito
Roji's
producer?
Hero of Supernatural Investigation.
Okay. Anybody interested in that at all, or should we move on?
No, but I'm
I quite
interested
like
in what that
Supernatural
one on the bottom right looks like. What's that?
Lapis Relights.
Evolve.
Yeah.
Nah. Evolve. What's that?
A girl inherits a company that is almost bankrupt from her late father. Lacking the funds, she must now become the producer herself in order to save the company from collapse. During her work, she meets the 4 boys, financial expert,
No, this is gonna be a Bisoujo.
Koito producer. Yeah. We may as well be equal opportunities.
Yeah.
What was it?
I feel like it's
Koito
gonna be a Bishonen series.
producer. Considering we've looked at all the standard ecchi stuff, so...
Oh, also
It's
known...
definitely looks like a romance
the
novel.
translated title is called Mr. Love Queen's Choice. Okay.
This definitely seems like a Bishonen Pretty Boy series. One of them kind of looked like Yagami from Death Note.
今俺が不安なのはお前を守れるかどうかだ。僕の前では無理しないでゆっくり大人になればいいよ。ポテチ姫なら大丈夫。きっとやれるよ。言っただろう。お前が風の中にいればいつでも見つけられ
He
る。
looks like the Doctor from X-Aid.
あの日君が俺に力を。
Oh
of course,
god,
one
an
of them
idol.
お前が俺に命をくれた。君の
But then he knows he can't be involved with her if he's an idol.
そ
It's
れがお前
forbidden.
の真の力。
Somebody can stop time.
すべて俺に任せろと言ったはずだ。我々は闇の中で光を守れ。最後までずっと一緒だ。君のことが心配なんだろう。
This is some kind of romance novel
君が
weirdness.
気づかないうちに
Romance novel slash crime thriller?
I don't think
With a
it's
bit of
crime
magic.
thriller. The magic being the pretty boys.
And sparkly guy jewellery.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you.
I mean, if that's your sort of thing, then feel free to watch, folks.
Ninja Collection? The hell is that?
Yami Shibai spin-off series. The new Ninja Collection anime will return to the urban legends and horror elements, but will center on Tokishu Ninja Group in Tokyo, the city where dreams and desires swirl like eddies in a river.
What? What even is that?
That sounds like it's going to be like a kind of a...
Ninja Scrolls second trailer down.
I can't even find the trailer for that.
Well, I think it's a collection.
Batman Ninja is the first trailer.
Yeah.
Oh, the Batman Ninja is great fun.
Oh.
Bonk, but great fun.
Peter Grill.
Oh, this looks cool.
G-Can?
Is it only a short?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's only... just as one episode, it doesn't say how many.
That's disappointing, because I was actually looking forward to Peter Grill. I'll stick this up. Or it would.
If YouTube would load.
It may be inappropriate. I understand. It's got My Hero Academia, so it is inappropriate.
It's a
Quiet.
Crunchyroll advert.
Good anime. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go.
So that looks like Naruto.
Oh!
Why an elephant?
We've seen this trailer before.
I think we did this for
This is when we were testing it the other day.
Yeah.
And we were getting the echo.
Yeah, we were getting the echo because we were testing it on Zoom, and we decided to just use Discord. I think the premise is he's sweet on this girl. They've been dating for a while, but they've never got on more than hand holding. And all of these other girls want him. But
yeah.
He doesn't want any. He doesn't want any of them. He just wants this girl. Yeah.
Leftovers from previous season.
Shadowverse. That looks like a flimin' Yu-Gi-Oh ripoff.
Yeah, a lot of them are. That looks disturbing.
What is that?
Pacolis. I need to see the trailer for this.
Is this inspired by a sticker collection?
Yeah. Have you not seen anime in Japan?
Oh god.
Why can
POCC?
I've got POCC. I'm trying to open it to see if there's a trailer.
Oh god. They were like badly drawn animals and stuff. What is that?
26th most popular anime in 2020. What?
Is that just because 2020 didn't have that much anime?
It's 9th most popular spring 2020 though.
Collies.
It's probably a kids show.
Probably.
I can't find it.
What the hell's a whisker away? Oh god. Wait, was that SpongeBob the anime?
Yeah. Have you not seen it? It's the best anime.
What the hell?
I assume this is a spoof.
I've just seen a thumbnail of Squidward. What the hell?
Voice acting John Wang. What have we stumbled across?
I don't...
The best thing ever.
Have you seen the anime adaptation of Powerpuff Girls?
This is awesome!
Oh
Oh my god. This is the thing we didn't know we needed.
My word. And it's still better animated than the most recent series of Berserk.
Sadly.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Have you seen the anime of Powerpuff Girls?
I've seen.
It's
I
amazing.
haven't actually watched it.
I haven't watched it, but it looks amazing.
Wifey.
Violet Evergarden! Violet Evergarden! Yes!
Oh wait, there's more Fate Stay Night stuff.
There is Violet Evergarden as well, though. But
Yeah.
she does get confused with Saber a lot.
Oh.
Oh, Second Nickelodeon Chronicle. Wait, is that a movie for Attack on Titan?
Yep. Cudwafter.
Compiling the first 3 seasons.
What's
What?
Monyedo? The shaman sorceress left at my home by a mute girl and her father. As is always the case, this picture is worth 1,000 words. The story behind the painting begins with a shaman named Mohua, who has been living with ... Also, what's Sung Ho Soo? That looks like that's kind of some freaky horror. Oh, it is horror thriller.
Should we just bring the trailer up?
Yes.
I was just going to read the synopsis.
With a name like that.
Donald Trump anime opening. I've just seen it suggested.
If I spelt that wrong.
Beauty Water looks like a common.
Well, did you know Donald Trump has the bestest
Beauty
anime?
Water looks like a common
bigliest.
skin cosmetic, but unlike other cosmetics, people can sculpt their skin with it, like molding clay, and change their appearance. An ordinary girl, Yaiji, comes across the Beauty Water by chance, and her endless something or other. It sounds like that would be quite a good psychological thingy.
I can't find a trailer for it.
Oh, that's annoying.
Let's see, OVAs as well. Anything that's actually interested? Nope, that's it. Alongside Higurashi being pushed back till the end of the year.
Yeah.
That was meant to be airing this season.
I'm still not convinced that it's new. I feel like it's just a rehash of the first series.
So that's what's to look forward to.
Yeah.
Lots to look forward to.
There seems to be quite. Oh, okay. That literally just disappeared on my screen.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think there'll be quite a bit coming out that I'm going to be more kind of geared towards. Like, I kind of like the school anime.
And the ecchi.
Ecchi, love it. I think the 2 ones that I'm going to watch is that one, which is Azuka-chan, and then the Transforming Henshin one. Those 2 are kind of like.
Yeah, I'm definitely keen on the hentai one. That sounds really funny. Looks really funny as well.
What about you, Chris? Are you going to pick up any of these seasons or series, or are you going to wait until you get some feedback?
What was the one with the cities? Decadence.
Decadence. Yeah, the one with the giant cities. That does look interesting. I'd probably be willing to give that 3 episodes.
I think that's a Funimation
exclusive, possibly.
Yeah, I didn't see it on Crunchyroll's website.
But don't they just literally appear on both formats anyway?
I think if it's on Funimation, it will probably end up being on Crunchyroll later on. But Funimation will get it first. But yeah, I mean that certainly kind of looked interesting.
Yeah, there wasn't anything in that looked like a standout anime. I mean, there was a couple of things that I was interested in, but there was nothing that I was just like, oh my god, if there's anything else that I need to see this season, I need to watch X. It just felt very much like another season of anime with some potential hitters, but nothing that was like Demon Slayer, for example. When we saw the art style for Demon Slayer, we were like, we need to watch this because it was doing something different. But yeah,
it was amazing.
It was. So
that's the whole form of all anime. At the moment, everything's pretty much exactly the same. It's just told either slightly different. So when something does new come along, like Demon Slayer or something that's never been shown, then it slightly changes and then it becomes something of the norm. Like all those animes we watched, I can guarantee you I could go off and find something very similar to it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to take a while for something like to jump out and be like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Well, I think you could say that for a lot of anime though. Like everything is inspired by something. It's rare to see something remotely that isn't in some way or shape or form like something else.
But most of the genres of anime that we see at the moment is always high school based. I think that when
it works, that's the problem. People watch it, they're going to keep making it. It's easy money. Taking a risk and doing something, different, it doesn't always work out, and that's why it's rare.
Do you think that most high school... Sorry, go on, Chris.
No, because I'm about to go off on a bit of a tangent anyway.
I was going to say, do you think that most schools in Japan, in the anime world, if they're all linked, every school would just be massively messed up? What happens at your school? Giant monsters. What happens at yours? Demons. What happens at yours? Gods. Can't help it.
What happened at yours? A girl fell down a set of stairs and landed throat first into an umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff that it's not even based off of a real Japanese school, though, because most of them, you see them there, they always eat their lunch on the roof. They have no access. You can't actually do that. You don't have access to the roof in Japanese schools.
I was literally watching a Japanese ASM artist, and she was talking about how she always wanted to do that, but she said it's forbidden. Yeah. That's the weirdest thing, watching ASMR or listening to ASMR in Japanese. There she is doing little Japanese phrase, and then in the middle of it, she's like, "Omoi wa shinderu." You're like, what? Slipping in various JoJo references, like, "Ororororo." I was like, I love it. ASM artist who is also a JoJo fan.
Nice. Well, you're about to go on a tangent, Chris, and I'm kind of excited for this.
Well,
I'm not worried about where this is going.
No, I was going to say, if you don't have subscription to any of the online streaming services, or you tend not to follow what's new and tend to wait until there's a bit of a public feedback, you can always go and purchase various DVDs online. It's still an option. I've actually got the list of manga and Anime Limited releases coming up during July. Some good stuff coming up there.
I think Chris has already been paid off by Anime Limited.
Yeah.
I wish. Because we mentioned Primare. That actually comes out on Monday for a collector's edition, as well as the regular DVD and Blu-ray.
That'd be cool. I still need to see that.
I think a lot of people are going to be dubious about buying an anime and then finding they don't like it, whereas at least watching it online, you can decide whether it's worth your money. Because I would absolutely hate paying like 15 quid for an anime and absolutely hating it.
True.
And then not being able to resell it.
Some people will go based on the recommendation of their friends.
Yeah, it's certainly
is an anime that's very much like things like Gurren Lagann. If you like that and your friends say you like this, you probably like Primare, chances are their friend is probably right.
Yeah.
Certainly that's the recommendation I've been given for Primare.
So we know that Mark won't be buying Primare. As of this.
On the same day Anime Limited are releasing Dragon Dentist. I know that had a
Dragon Dentist. I'm assuming, is this about a dentist that helps dragons with teeth?
I'm assuming it's a dentist.
That's a dragon?
No, it is a human who does dental work for dragons.
Well, that's kind of what I was hoping for with the title.
Are they anthropomorphized dragons with certain assets?
Brushy.
No, like, the cover art is her stood in front of this gaping maw of this giant kind of dragon.
Oh, it's her. Oh god, I hope it's not going to be like that hentai that you said that I can't pronounce.
Arotsuka Doji.
Yeah.
Oh.
Giant dragon arms. Oh,
god. The production supervisor was Hideaki Anno.
Okay.
I'm not going to pretend to know who that is.
He's the writer and director of Evangelion. It's basically it's from his new studio, Studio Kahara.
Going back to what you said a minute ago about recommendations and stuff like that, I think it's now kind of important to turn around and like maybe like watch it on Crunchyroll or send some trailers to your friends, like if you're watching an anime, because there've been many times when someone's turned around and said, "Oh, go watch this, you'll love it." And then I've gone and bought it.
We're missing chat because it's not coming up on my chat. Hannah was asking about whether we'd seen an assassination class.
We answered that earlier.
I did ask that question.
You did? Was I awake getting a drink or something?
I think it was in the middle of while we were going through various trailers, so you might not have caught me. But yeah, I saw that.
It's annoying. Literally, all of my chat is just showing me pretzels. It's not actually showing me anyone's chat.
That's because that's all that is in chat at the moment.
I know, but I've not had any messages from anyone at all in the whole thing. It's just...
We've had 3 messages. We haven't missed much.
I know, but still, it kind of defeats the point of modding if you can't actually see what you're trying to mod.
I think what you were saying there, Mark's very good about the idea of sharing trailers, and I think this is the great thing about Crunchyroll's model of you get a guest pass, which is valid for like a few days. It means that you can say to your friend, "Hey, look, here's a 3-day pass. Check out these 2 or 3 animes, see what you think."
Yeah, plenty of time to see whether it's worth paying.
Yeah. I think it is because if like you go on recommendation and go, "Oh, go check out this," and then you go buy, like, say, season 1, you spend 15, 30 quid, and then go, "I don't like this," then your friend's going to go, "Well, I liked it." I think when you start sharing trailers and you start sharing, like, say, the guest passes and say, "Hey, look, what do you think of this?" then obviously it kind of makes it up, because back in the day, like, when there was nothing, like, one of the worst things that I bought anime-wise was one of the non-Funimation Dragon Ball Z films, where it was horrible, and luckily back then you could return stuff straight away. But now it's more like, you buy an anime, you can't return it. I think it's important.
Trying to resell it, you're never going to get back what you paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's now.
I think some of this comes back to, like, we're having a discussion during the Matsuri about watching stuff online and the actual profit margins of certain shows. If, for example, you watched a series end to end on Crunchyroll, that studio might get 30p from what you've watched. If you went online and watched it through a non-legitimate source, but then went out and bought the Blu-ray, they're probably going to get 70% of that Blu-ray's cost.
Yeah,
so you're actually going to end up putting more money in their pocket.
On Crunchyroll, and then that you still buy the Blu-ray. Just because you've seen it doesn't mean you're not going to buy it. I mean, I've seen all of bloody Martial Success in Nadesco. I still bought it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I mean, I watched on Net. I watched it online. I watched it on Netflix. In fact, I had like
excuse me,
1080p downloads, or at least 720 downloads for Kill la Kill back in the day, and I still went out and bought it on Blu-ray because I enjoyed it. I think that, again, this was something we said during Cloud Matsuri. I think this is where all the anime do really well, is that they do these really nice box sets and these, collections with your art books and stuff. And the chances are that somebody who really likes the show and has watched it online will go, "Actually, I want that collector's piece." And so I think that's a good way for them to approach the market, because, the casual viewer will just go, "Well, I'll watch whatever I can with my Amazon or Netflix subscription."
Yeah.
And as we said earlier on, certainly in the case of Netflix, the range and the quality of anime they're getting now is better.
I think it's good. It's more accessible. The thing is, like, back like years and years and years ago, when there wasn't a collector's edition, it was just literally either part 1, buy then part 2. Now things have gotten better and better when it comes to limited editions, or when it comes to actually having that anime. And now that it's more accessible, it's more easier to get. Like, I know that when I used to watch it on like non-normal sites, if I enjoyed that season very much, I would go out and I would go buy it and go, "Well, I just bought the Blu-ray because I enjoyed it that much," rather than just go, "Well, that season was great, and now I'm moving on to something else." I would want to support it.
So when I have enjoyed something enough, I will go and purchase it. Or if I felt that it was of a certain level where I felt that it was deserving of me spending money.
Deserving of more money, and
but that's kind of
so that you can get more like it.
How I approach most media from Asia and that kind of area. Like, I watched, for a long period of time, I watched Super Sentai. There was no legitimate way of watching Super Sentai out here without importing the DVDs from out there.
And then
so you'd...
Shout Factory brought out...
Well, they did, but they kind of stopped bringing them out. Like, the most recent ones, you couldn't actually find them.
What I'm saying is, when they did that, then, because you had an illegitimate thing, even though you'd already seen it, you bought those box sets.
So I bought those box sets, or what I would do is, I've enjoyed the most recent series, I will go and buy £150 worth of toys to kind of put that money back into the medium that I've enjoyed, and I think as long as people are being careful and being considerate of the work that goes into certain things, and
not just consume.
and putting your money where your mouth is. For example, if you've watched a series and you've gone, well, that's pretty mediocre, I would rather like them up their game or do something else. That's you putting your money where your mouth is, kind of.
But I mean, the industry as a whole is moving in an interesting direction, because with not just with simulcast, but in terms of actual physical copy distribution is a lot better. It used to be that there was a massive delay between the US release and the UK release, to the point at which sometimes we're talking like years. So there are things that I've slowly been surely replacing some of my DVDs. I'm not in any rush to replace all of my anime DVDs to Blu-ray or whatever, or to new versions. But I'm surely replacing my American DVDs because I want to put money into the UK anime industry. Because I bought some US imported DVDs in the early, late 90s, early noughties, because at the time the likelihood of a UK release was years off, if at all. Whereas now the releases tend to be for physical media tend to be pretty concurrent.
I think with the way that you're getting DVDs and stuff like that now, I think there's more of a way of getting it accessible. Like, I wouldn't import something from America because it wouldn't run on anything that I had, and I didn't want to have to go out and buy a brand new machine just to play one thing. I think that's obviously now when streaming's coming into it. But obviously with buying like stuff from all the anime or manga or whoever, it's a lot more accessible now. So I can just turn around and go, oh, that's the anime I watched 2 years ago. I'm now doing it. Or I can go and stream it or buy it digitally.
Yeah, so, it's about supply and demand, ultimately.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But like I remember back in the sort of mid-90s, being an anime fan then, and you would buy anime on VHS, like Evangelion. It was like $13.99 a tape for 2 episodes.
I think I had X2000 and Blood the Last Vampire on.
Oh VHS. Yeah. They were.
Yeah, I had those.
Late 90s.
And I used to subscribe to like anime magazines when the DVDs came out, just so that's how you watch trailers and that lot. They were on these discs.
Oh,
when they would do episode 1. They would do like 1 episode of things, so you could like have a taste and then decide, and they'd like review them in the magazine.
I'm probably going to get into a little bit of a debate that may end up spanning into the next episode, but I have to ask, how did everybody get into anime in the first place? What was their entry drug into this franchise?
Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Ulysses 31.
Ooh,
Jason the Wheeled Warriors, Techno Man.
But
I tried to rewatch the Techno Man dub, and I couldn't believe that I ever found that entertaining when I was a kid, because the American dub is so bad. It's so much better in the Japanese.
I meant less.
That sold me on that.
Less the shows, more when did you actually realise you were more of an anime fan, and when did you actually start, what sparked you actively looking to watch more anime? Like, if I give my story, so I knew a Dave from Plymouth, who is colloquial known as Hentai Dave, who used to catch the same bus from Estover to Plimpton as I did, and in the mornings...
Mr. J.
Yeah, in the mornings on the way to school, he would bring out his laptop and sit there and watch anime on the bus on the way to school, because he was trying to keep up with the anime from West Country Anime. At which point, after he kind of indoctrinated me on that bus, I ended up coming to West Country Anime, where I met that bugger, Chris, who then indoctrinated me even further and showed me such delights as...
Making it sound like anime's a cult.
Well, it kind of is.
That you guys when you got into anime and that lot, that you had people to share it with. Nobody I knew when I was a kid liked anime. They all thought it was cartoons. They didn't give a crap about it. It was just me and my brother. And that was like our thing that we bonded over. and it was Evangelion Master System. We used to watch this game review show because we were both into console gaming and all sorts of gaming and that lot. And they would have all these game reviews, and then they would play one episode of Evangelion and one episode of Martial Successor Disco, and then from that, I kind of, back when CNX was a thing before it became Toonami, I used to stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning because they were playing Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star, and Spawn. And I just watched that stuff, and then like obviously when dial-up internet became broadband, showing my age here, I discovered everything else that was.
Sorry, what's dial-up?
Kind of dissolved into there. Look it up.
Get back in your box, child.
Yeah. There's only 7 years between us. Come on.
I relate to that a lot because I mean, I grew up on a healthy diet of 80s cartoons, a lot of which were animated by Japanese studios. I also grew up with a huge amount of science fiction. I'm very fortunate that I had like several uncles who were really into sci-fi, so they kind of would fuel my addictions of going, oh, you can borrow this, whatever. But what really got me from being somebody who'd seen a few anime to really taking an interest was Evangelion. And having watched that, then borrowing various VHS and stuff from my uncle. And yeah, it was a rabbit hole from there. But yeah, I mean,
that's how we discovered like the more that it wasn't just kid shows like Pokemon and that lot, that there was that basically it's the same as any movie and TV show. There are hundreds of genres and different things, albeit some of it is more pervaded than live action stuff.
I didn't have the luxury though of cable, so I didn't get to enjoy Toonami or anything like that. Like I saw it occasionally when I was at friends' houses, but I relied entirely on VHS and stuff like that. So I started with a lot of old school anime. I started with Evangelion. I think I borrowed Nadesco from somebody, but then I went and watched loads of things like Bubblegum Crisis.
Oh yeah, Bubblegum Crisis. Yeah, we had that one.
Appleseed, Dominion Tank Police. I saw a lot of retro stuff.
Yeah. Was it Blue Gender? I watched Blue Gender. Have you seen that one? Where the world's like overtaken by giant insects and stuff.
Oh,
that was
I'm aware of it. I've not seen it.
That was back when Ross Records existed, and you could go in there and buy like DVDs and do second-hand exchanges and stuff like that.
So a bit like CEX.
Kind of, yeah. Ross Records was probably the predecessor to CEX.
Do you remember like MVM?
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, I remember MVM. They did a lot of
because they used to be quite good for it. And then after they went like eventually
Manga Entertainment
and yeah. No, sorry, MVC, the shop, MVC.
Oh yeah.
Right, sorry. Because there was wasn't there a VHS distributor that was...
MVM was anime.
MVM still going, yeah. No, sorry, I meant to say MVC, because they used to be quite good for anime. And then after they died out, like HMV and Virgin Megastore used to slowly surely got...
As long as you could fight through the group of goths.
The Virgin Megastore. I mean, that's like 18 years ago.
Yeah, you had to fight through a group of goths to get to Virgin Megastores. One of them would have been me. What about you, Mark?
We've all had our goth.
How did you get into proper anime and not just like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff? What was your defining moment?
I'm gonna throw some random ones at you. So I always classed Thundercats as a anime because it was animated in Japan because of the walk cycle. If someone goes like, "Oh no, you can't,"
if they can argue to the point of making freaking Cory in the House anime, then I'm pretty sure that we can get away with
one of 4chan's memes that caught on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you can say that, then we can say Thundercats is anime.
Yeah. So with Thundercats was my first one. I was in there.
Thundercats.
If it was proper
He-Man.
If it was, it's always Thundercats. He-Man can go suck a dick. So if it goes to like proper anime from Japan, my first one was Appleseed, and I saw it at I watched it at a friend's house after school, and then that kind of piqued my interest. And then my brother had a load of VHS tapes of Project A-ko, Raujin V, Guyver and stuff. So I kind of watched it. I only saw Project Echo the first tape, and then there was a second-hand shop down around the corner from me, and I decided to go in there one day, and they had like all of Project Echo on VHS, and I was just like, I'm buying all that. And then that was the main thing that got me kind of,
wasn't there? Because there was
into
the Echo movie. I don't think
when you say Appleseed, do you mean the movie, or do you mean because there wasn't there an original anime series before the CG's ish
there's an original
came out,
OVA
and then there was another one.
made in about 1991, I think.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen that one. I've only seen the 2 movies that they did of Appleseed.
It was the first film that they did that came out before the CGI one. And so that was a good one, but I don't remember like too much of it. But when it came to like Project Echo, I kind of fell in love with it. And then obviously Pokemon and Digimon was released over here, and then so I'd already tasted the whole, let's say, adult.
You're talking about that one.
That one.
Yeah.
I really need to see that. I haven't seen that one. I think I still have the Steelbox DVD of the first CGI movie and the Ex Machina. That's the second one.
Yeah, it's the second
Ex Machina was the second one. It's I've got the Steelbox of the first one, and then
Then I think like some TV channels and stuff like that.
I'm looking. A sec.
I'm sure I don't know if I sold it or not. I might have sold it. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
that's the
I had that one.
The original one. Yeah.
Yeah, I got rid of it like soon after. But yeah, like there was loads of stuff that came out in the UK, like TV channels. Like was it? They did the sci-fi one.
Shin-chan.
I remember Shin-chan. Shin-chan was awesome. I know it was a great one. There's still quite loads of anime out there. I think now that the world's more kind of open to it, and now that obviously people can see it in Japan, like actually experience it there. I mean, you guys have seen it. Pretty much walk down the series, bam, girl on the roof, bam, girl in a window, bam, pavement everywhere. So it's a whole like kind of different culture. But now, like the internet and things have opened up, we're able to watch way more than what.
Taken more seriously now, isn't it? As a genuine storytelling platform. It was for kids and all that.
We have a comment from chat.
What?
Handan says, can't remember the name, but American friend from school got me into it at college. Me and my cousins watched Death Note.
Yeah, definitely.
Death Note's good. Cool.
Death Note is a good. Anyone who
watched Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh when I was in primary school and secondary school. I mean, I know.
I don't. No, I can't remember that.
I think this may. I think you mentioned this the other day, Ben, and it's an interesting point of the acknowledging that shows like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, whilst they were the plots have been played around with and dumbed down and heavily edited to make it a Saturday morning cartoon, essentially. They still helped fuel the rise of anime in the late 90s and through to a generation that are now, in their 20s.
A big part of that came from the fact that people didn't want to animate or create their own content, or producers didn't want to take the risk of spending money on the animation themselves. Whereas
just pay voice actors to dub.
Paying voice actors from Texas to dub over something and putting it out as a brand new TV series in the West. If it flopped, it flopped. If it got audience, well, they've paid very little for it, and that's where a lot of the shows came from that we watched on things like Fox Kids and.
Like Shaman King and
one of the few anime I remember being on mainstream television that wasn't at like 2 o'clock in the morning was ITV on used to, as part of their kids slot. They used to have Sailor Moon.
Yeah,
and that was quite heavily edited. This comes back to what I was saying.
Yeah, well, they change the 2 girls that were actually lovers into cousins.
Yeah,
this didn't explain the closeness at all, and it was just.
I don't know if they ever got as far as broadcasting that, because I think that's like.
Season 5 or something like that.
Season 3. It's like Super S, because you get Sailor Moon, Sailor Moon S, Sailor Moon Super S, I think.
There's quite.
I know people who are far more versed in Sailor Moon who could correct me if where I'm wrong. But yeah, they took I want to say Uranus and Neptune, but I'm not sure that's right.
It was those two, yeah. They were the lesbian couple, but then they turned them into cousins.
Yeah.
Because basically back then it was like, oh, you can't show kissing on the TV, but your mum and dad can do it. It's that sort of mentality where they changed a lot of stuff, like Pokemon, where there's a guy that has a gun in his hand, but they got rid of it. And same thing is like in Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a scene where they just run up, and then they're like that, and it's like they've got nothing in their hand.
They edited the guns out, and it just made Kaiba look even more.
Some of the most ridiculous ones are what 4Kids did with One Piece, like the taking the gun and making it some sort of like Heath Robinson like trigger pull.
Didn't they make? Is it Stanji? What's the one that smokes? They changed it to a lollipop because they have smoking in it.
Yeah, it's Sanji, the cook.
Blonde one, the cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it. So it wasn't just ITV that had content like that. So Fox Kids around the same times were putting out. So you had Monster Rancher. You had Medabots.
BBC as well, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, Medabots.
You had.
On BBC.
You had Medabots. It was there was just a renaissance of Japanese culture that was being. I think it was partly spurred on by Haim Saban and the success of Super Sentai being brought into Power Rangers, and the success of other things like Dragon Ball Z, that they just went whoosh.
It all circulates around this sort of midpoint of the 90s, around 1995, which is where anime really exploded here, because it's the year where Ghost in the Shell came out. It got such critical acclaim, and it's the year where Evangelion came out, and that quickly built momentum. Well, no, Akira came out in
8?
But I mean, like for me, it was. I think it was Akira and Ghost in the Shell that I discovered. Not because I'd heard great reviews about them, but because the artwork looked interesting on the DVDs.
I think.
Sorry, go on, Chris.
I was going to say, and again, we were saying with the sort of mid to late 90s, Pokemon, and bring it slightly back to what I started with this tangent about Pokemon, is it's not personally, it doesn't, I'm not fussed about it, but I can appreciate the impact that Pokemon had, because it was the right kind of show coming on at the right kind of time to not indoctrinate, but to bring a fresh generation.
I wonder if anime would have been as successful over here if it wasn't for Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think it played an important role in.
So what we could potentially do,
and it's the same thing that even people who don't like Evangelion at least acknowledge its cultural impact that it had on the industry.
I just can't believe that when I was watching it, it was aired at like 1 p.m. I'm like, really?
1 a.m. Yeah. So what
1 p.m. This was in the afternoon. And I was just like, really? But I think it was, they did edit out like all the blood was black, and it was like, you know, the bit where the blue unit, the dark navy one, when it had the new child in it, and they tested out the dummy plug system for the first time.
Oh, the 13th Angel.
That scene, and I was just like, how did they get away with that at 1 in the afternoon?
Yeah.
I think it was more heavily edited, and they cut out all of the splatter and stuff like that.
What I was about to say is what we could almost do is stick a pin in this and use this as a jumping off point for the next podcast in terms of our first subject, talking about 90s anime and the influence of things like Pokemon and other stuff. And that'll give us a good thing to do a little bit of research on, get a bit of a debate going, and start our next podcast off with a bit of a bang.
We're losing light fast.
If it's cool with you guys, 2 weeks from now will be the 10th, I think, if I've done my calculations right.
Should be okay for me.
Yes, that'll be the 10th, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll go for the 10th again. Will Beast Morphers have finished by then?
It should have. I don't think there's anything majorly kicking up. But Beast Morphers, I think, finishes on Monday.
Okay.
Or Tuesday.
So yeah, we'll go for the 10th then from 7 o'clock, and we'll kick off with a bit of a discussion around like 90s anime, what inspired like the anime culture and all around that in the 90s, leading up to now. I think that'll be a great topic.
I think that's a good springboard. Well, I think actually what potentially we could do is you could almost break it down by decade, but I think 90s is a good one because it's one that we have a very clear frame of reference for.
Yeah, definitely. So, just want to say thank you to everybody that's been in the chat and everybody that's watched us. We're sat here with 5 viewers at the moment, so thank you for joining us this evening for the very first Talk Taku. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we hope to see you then. If you want to click the follow button, feel free to, and there's a little notification bell, so it'll tell you when we go live next. So until then, hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Don't go and get too crispy in the good weather.
Yes, exactly right.
To die in the heat.
Okie doke. Right.
You shouldn't be going outside anyway because you should be staying alert. Whatever the hell.
Staying safe, staying alert, staying at home and working at home when you can work at home. Yeah.
Watch anime. Don't watch anime. Watch anime.
Yes, watch all the anime. Just don't go out. Sit and watch all the anime and come and join us in 2 weeks for some debate. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, I will catch you all later. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.